Test, test. It is 2:00, so the Norfolk Public School District's Board of Education meeting is called to order. We'll begin with roll call.
Sorry, I was looking for my cord. Terry Bauer,
Present.
Beth Shashikant,
Present.
Sandy Wolf,
Present.
Brenda Carhart,
Present.
Lindsay Dixon,
Present.
Cindy Booth.
Present.
All members are present. We do have a quorum.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. This is a legal meeting of the Board of Education as advertised by the means specified in board policy. A complete copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted in the boardroom for your review. A copy of the agenda is available at the desk of the recording secretary. We will now stand, and please join us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. We are to the reorganization of the board and the election of officers. Dr. Thompson.
Thank you. According to Board Policy 9121, the board president presides at all meetings of the school board, countersigns all orders upon the school treasury for funds to be dispersed by the district, countersigns all warrants of the secretary of the county treasurer, maintains order at public meetings of the school board, appears for and on behalf of the district in all suits brought by or against the district, appoints or provides for the election of committees of the board and stays apprised of the work of all such committees, calls special meetings of the board when warranted. At this time, the superintendent will call for nominations for the office of board president. Once nominations have ceased, one of the following procedures will be utilized. If only one person is nominated, the superintendent will ask for a motion to approve that person as board president and proceed with an electronic vote. If more than one person is nominated, the superintendent will provide board members with a ballot on which they will write the name of the person they want to vote for. Callan Collins will count the votes and read the tally for the record. The candidate with the most votes will serve as our 2024 board president beginning immediately. I would entertain nominations for board president for 2024.
I move that Brenda Carhart be elected as board president to serve a term of 1 year or until the person's successor is elected and qualified.
Thank you. I have a nomination for Brenda Carhart. Are there any other nominations for board president?
Can we nominate the current board president, Sandy Wolf?
Yes, you can.
I nominate Sandy Wolf.
Okay, I have nominations for both Brenda Carhart and Sandy Wolf. Are there any other nominations for president? Okay, I believe you have ballots in front of you. If you would write the name of the person that you are voting for on the slip of paper and then fold it up, and Callan will come around and she will do the tally.
Four votes for Sandy, 2 votes for Brenda.
Okay, thank you. Sandy Wolf, it looks like you get to be president for another year. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, Terry.
You're welcome.
Okay, we are to the vice president. According to Board Policy 9122, the vice president shall perform the duties of the president in case of the absence of the president. The board president will call for nominations for the office of vice president. Once nominations have ceased, one of the following procedures will be utilized. If only one person is nominated, the superintendent will ask for a motion to approve that that person is vice president and proceed with an electronic vote. If more than one person is nominated, the president will provide board members with a ballot on which they will write the name of the person that they want to vote for. Callan Collins will count the votes and read the tally for the record. The candidate with the most votes will serve as our 2024 vice president beginning immediately. Board Policy 8130 specifies that the motion to elect officers should state, I move blank be elected as blank to serve as a term of 1 year or until the person's successor is elected and qualified. I nominate Brenda Carhart for vice president.
I nominate Cindy Booth as vice president.
Any other? Please vote.
Cindy Booth, 3 votes. Brenda Carhart, 3 votes.
So according to board policy, if no member receives a majority of the votes, then we vote again for up to 5 times. So if there would be any discussion that you would like to have, that would be appropriate, and then there would be another vote.
After 5 votes, Dr. Thompson, then it just automatically goes back to seniority, which would be Brenda Carhart.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Would anybody like to discuss? I will say Brenda has been an excellent vice president, and I know she would like to be president at some point. So this would give her another year. Please vote.
Brenda Carhart, 4 votes. Cindy Booth, 2 votes.
Congratulations, Brenda. Okay, 4.3, discuss, consider, and take action to approve the 2024 board treasurer. It's customary for the district's Director of Business Services to serve as board treasurer. The Finance and Facilities Committee discussed this and is recommending that I continue as interim board treasurer until Mr. Eric Wilson starts his new position in July. That's not I, that's Dr. Thompson. Like, whoa, I'm not doing that. Therefore, I recommend that you appoint Dr. Thompson to serve as the 2024 State Board Treasurer. We will readdress this in July. Board Policy 8130 specifies that the motion to elect officers should state, I move that Dr. Thompson be elected as our 24 Board Treasurer to serve a term of 1 year or until the person's successor is elected and qualified.
I'll second that motion.
Please vote.
Motion carried, 6-0.
Thank you, Callan. Congratulations, Dr. Thompson. It is customary for the district superintendent to serve as the board secretary. Therefore, I recommend that you appoint Dr. Thompson as your 24 board secretary, i.e. Callan. Board Policy 8130 specifies that the motion to elect officers should state, I move that Dr. Thompson be elected as the board secretary to serve a term of 1 year until the person's successor is elected and qualified.
I'll make a motion to appoint Dr. Jamie Jo Thompson as the 2024 Board Secretary.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Lindsay. A motion by Lindsay and a second by Brenda. Any discussion? Please vote.
Motion carried, 6-0.
Thank you, Callan. Committees, positions, and designations. Discuss, consider, and take action to appoint the recording secretary of the Board of Education. One of the duties assigned to the administrative assistant to the superintendent Board of Education is to serve as the recording secretary of the Board of Education. I recommend Callan Collins to be appointed as the recording secretary.
I'll make a motion to approve Callan Collins as the recording secretary of the Board of Education.
Second that motion.
I have a motion by Beth and a second by Brenda. Is there any discussion? Please vote.
Motion carried, 6-0.
Thank you, Callan. 5.2 is discuss, consider, and take action to approve the district's legal counsel. For numerous years, the district's primary legal counsel has been provided via the attorneys at Perry Law Firm. We continue to be satisfied with their advice and performance. Therefore, I recommend that we continue to use their services as a needed basis. Are you supposed to be doing this, Jamie Jo? I'm just flying. Other legal firms may be used from time to time for special cases.
I'll make a motion to approve Perry Law Firm as the district's legal counsel.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion by Lindsay and a second by Beth. Is there any discussion? Please vote.
Motion carried, 6-0.
Thank you, Callan. Okay, here comes the tricky part. Discuss, consider, and take action to appoint board committees. If you all will open up your information there. We have a couple of openings and a couple of duplications. So the first one is negotiations. I don't see that there are any changes to that one. Lindsay, correct?
Correct.
Beth?
Yep.
Curriculum committee, let's see. Beth, Cindy, Terry, you weren't interested.
Do you need somebody on it?
Did somebody else want to do curriculum?
You said we weren't, or were?
No, these are the people that were on it last year. So we're just seeing who wants to do it and who, I need to get mine bigger. You want to, Cindy, you're good? So we usually have 3 on there. So if, okay, we're gonna keep that one the same. And then we are, so that one's the same, American Civics, it's Beth. Cindy, does somebody want to be the third person on civics?
Typically, we have American Civics and Curriculum be the same board members because they run them back to back. It doesn't have to be, but it just makes it simpler for the board members.
That's good. Finance and Facility, Brenda, Sandy, and Terry. Policy Committee, Lindsay, Brenda, and Cindy. Everyone's good with that? Government Relations. Last year it was Cindy, Beth, and myself. Terry would like to be on that, so would, Cindy, did you go out of town much? Did you want to stay on that one?
Honestly, it really doesn't matter, except I did sign up for the legislative, to attend the legislative conference on January 21st, so you could still do that. You're not bad. I could
Because Terry, you wanted government.
As long as Cindy's good.
You okay with that, Cindy? Okay, so the Government Relations Committee will be Terry, you'll be the head of it, Sandy and Beth. Superintendent Evaluation, it is right now Sandy, Brenda, and Beth. Lindsay indicated she wanted to join. Did anybody want to step off? The president and vice president have to stay on it.
I don't really want to step off the committee.
Okay, then we'll keep it as it is. Activities Committee is Brenda, Terry, and Lindsay. Everyone's cool with that? Okay, Staff Member of the Month, Beth indicated she would like to join. Lindsay did not list that as a committee, so that would be Lindsay will step off and Beth will stay on. Foundation Board, Brenda?
Yeah, I'll stay on that one.
And then the last one is the District Wellness. Lindsay, you did not want to do that. Does somebody?
It's no big deal. I mean, it looks pretty, I mean, it's neat what they do.
Okay, you want to stay?
If somebody else want to
No,
try
I
it?
only have two committees that I
Oh.
went off for one, so you want me to?
You want, sure, that'd be great, Cindy. Thank you. That didn't take us so
They
long
do
at all.
pickleball.
Yes,
They're doing pickleball right now. It's pretty cool.
yeah, awesome. Okay, Callan, you got all those changes? Somebody like to make a motion? You don't have to read all those.
I'll make a motion, okay. I'll make a motion to appoint board members to committees as listed.
Second that motion?
Okay, we have a motion by Lindsay and a second by Brenda. Thank you all. Thank you for your willingness to serve. Please vote.
Motion carried, 6-0.
Thank you, Callan. 5.4 is discuss, consider, and take action to approve the district's depository banks. Dr. Thompson.
Thank you, Madam President. This is one of those official resolutions. So it is hereby resolved that the official depository of school funds for Madison County School District 59-0002 is hereby designated to be at Bank First, Elkhorn Valley Bank and Trust, Midwest Bank, and Nebraska Liquid Asset Fund, and that the designation of any other institution as the depository of school funds is hereby withdrawn. There are no changes. That is who we have now. Bank First will be the primary depository for the general fund. Midwest Bank will be the primary depository for the bond fund, special building fund, and depreciation fund. Elkhorn Valley Bank and Trust will be the primary depository for all other funds, and Nebraska Liquid Asset Fund will serve as a depository for cash reserves in the general, bond, QCPUF, special building, and depreciation funds.
Can that change at any time during the year? If
It
need be?
could if we have come in the middle of the year before when we saw one bank really increase interest rates and another not. We would just have to come back and have a board motion to do that.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution regarding the district's depository banks.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion by Cindy and a second by Beth. Is there any further discussion? Please vote.
Motion carried, 6-0.
Thank you, Callan. 5.5 is discuss, consider, and take action to approve the Norfolk Daily News as the district's newspaper of record. Dr. Thompson.
Historically, we have used the Norfolk Daily News as our newspaper of record, as it's our local paper. This is where we publish public notices, RFPs, etc.
I make a motion to approve the Norfolk Daily News as the district's newspaper of record.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Beth and a second by Lindsay. Is there any discussion? Please vote.
Motion carried, 6-0.
Thank you, Callan. 5.6, discuss, consider, and take action to approve the district's credit card and fleet card. Dr. Thompson.
According to Policy 3130, the Board of Education shall be presented annually the list of recommended card assignments that have authority to use school district-issued credit cards and purchasing funds. The credit cards are issued through Bank First. All credit cards have the school district's name and card number on them, not the individual's names. The District Voyager fleet cards for fuel can only be used by organizations that qualify for the state fuel rate. These cards are also numbered and with the school district name on them. All cards are initially checked out through the business office and returned to the business office when they expire or a listed assignment is no longer needed in the district. We are in the process of changing our credit card, but it'll still be with Bank First, and it will still use these same exact procedures. We're just moving to a card that has a different due date and that provides us with some cash back.
Do we get that off the Voyager fleet cards also? I mean, is there cash back on that?
No, there's not. That's just a special state thing.
Okay, is Voyager Fleet the only one that does it, or does Fleet One offer that, or?
I make a motion to approve the district's credit card and fleet card designations.
Second that motion.
We have a motion by Beth and a second by Brenda. Any discussion? Please vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you, Callan. That sounds like maybe something new for you to look into, Eric. Okay, we are to 6, approval of current board policies and regulations related to personnel. Dr. Thompson.
Okay, I thought you said something else. I'm
No.
sorry. Norfolk Public Schools reviews policies on a 3-year rotation in order to ensure that they are kept current. We don't do them all at once like some school districts do. The only policies up for approval today are policies 4013 through 4027 related to personnel. There have been no changes to these policies since their first reading.
Make a motion to approve the second and final reading of board policies 4013 to 4027 related to personnel.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Lindsay and a second by Cindy. Is there any discussion? Please vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you, Callan. 7, designation of date for the annual review of Board of Education policies. Dr. Thompson.
In addition to our 3-year policy review rotation, an additional policy update is completed each year following the Nebraska legislative session to address any changes required due to new statutes. This date is tentatively set for July 8, 2024.
I'll make a motion to designate July 8th, 2024 to our annual review of Board of Education policies.
Second the motion.
We have a motion by Brenda and a second by Beth. Is there any discussion? Please vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you, Callan. 8, dissemination of conflict of interest policies and statutes. Dr. Thompson.
State statutes require that school board members disclose any conflicts of interest that they may have related to contracts and employment issues, as well as any other matters that may have a financial impact on the board member or his or her family. The procedures for conflict disclosure and reporting have been provided to all board members for their review. All board members understand their duty to disclose potential conflicts of interest and refrain from voting on such items. Potential items that may be a conflict include reimbursement of expenses and the payment of wages for activity workers. Our finance office will notify board members if such an item appears on the monthly claims and assist them in preparing a conflict of interest disclosure statement. Are there any other conflicts of interest that a board member would like to disclose at this time? I am not aware of any, so I think we're fine.
Okay, we don't need a motion on that one. We are in 9, special recognition and presentations. We have Melissa Jans here with Little Panthers Preschool.
Good afternoon. I will forewarn you that none of our students or families could come, so you just get me. Sorry. So all the excitement is out the window because it's way more exciting when you have cute faces to look at. But so I rebranded our presentation today because we are doing a focus on the families. Unfortunately, the families couldn't come. So we're gonna give the next best. We have a couple videos and some pictures. But especially with birth to 5 services, we focus strongly on families. Yes, we focus on serving children, but we have to start with the strong foundation with our families, and so a lot of our services are based on families as well. So 3 programs we're going to hit on today are Early Development Network, our Sixpence program, and then also Little Panthers Preschool. You should have a little envelope that I put at your spot that has just a few items in it, pamphlets about our program, and some information that you're welcome to look through. And we will get started. So I will go through just a little bit about why early childhood matters, especially with certain generations. I still get feedback of why do we really need preschool? Is it just glorified childcare? Things like that. And so I think it's important for us to continue to put out information about why early childhood is so important. So just a few pieces of information here. 90% of brain development occurs by the time a child is 5. So those first 5 years are extremely important because that's when billions of neurons are developing and connecting. Exposure to high quality early childhood environments truly changes the brain's architecture. So we are working very hard to provide environments that are safe and welcoming, but also very intentional on exposing kids to lots of different learning opportunities. And when fully supported, children are much more likely to meet all these things that we as a public school want. 3rd grade reading proficiency, high school graduation rates increase, gainful employment, mental and physical well-being, and avoidance of substance use and crime. There is a lot of research being done on how those first 5 years of quality environments have an impact in the life of a child as they grow. Next, I have a little bit of information just about Madison County especially. So frequently, the state puts out information in regards to risk factor criteria for children under the age of 5. This is one of those maps that we don't want to be the bright red, but unfortunately, Madison County has been a bright red orange for the entire time I've been here, meaning that over 50% of our children are at risk for school failure because of a variety of risk factors that our kids experience within our county. And so because of that, it just increases our reasons for working so hard to provide high quality early childhood environments and also to educate our families on how to provide safe and education-based learning environments in their home as well. So I'll go through a few of the programs that we offer at Norfolk Public Schools. The first thing that I always like to point out that not many people are aware of is Nebraska is considered a birth mandate state. Not all states are that way. And what that means is school districts in the state of Nebraska are required to begin child find once a child is born. So if a child is born with a disability, a delay, some risk for delay, it is the school district's responsibility to be searching out those children. In a lot of other states, services don't begin until the child enters kindergarten, and I think in a lot of those states you then see the long-term delays for children because they didn't get that early intervention, and a lot of their state testing shows that. And so we're gonna hit on some programs that we really push our child find efforts. First one I'm gonna hit on is Early Development Network. This program starts when children are born. It can be for any type of reason that someone can make a referral to Early Development Network. And so in that program, we can begin providing services in that child's home. As soon as the referral comes through, we complete an evaluation, we see where that child is at, we consider medical records, and then we can begin services. And in this program, our team members can include occupational therapists, physical therapists, speech language pathologists, a SPED resource teacher, teacher of the visually impaired, teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing, services coordinators, and interpreters. So with that range of team members, we are able to provide a lot of services right away to get the child the services they need, but also the parent the coaching that they so desperately want. Parenting is hard enough, and it looks completely different if you have a child with medical complications or developmental disabilities, and so we want to walk that path with those families. The services, like I said, are provided in a natural environment, so it's either in the child's home or in a childcare setting. So our providers are not just in a school building all day. They are going out into families' homes. A lot of times when I try to explain to someone what my schedule looks like, they kind of give me an odd look when I say, well, during this time, I'm sitting on a family's couch, because when those meetings are held to talk about those services, I'm sitting on that couch talking with that family about what those services look like. So I'm in and out of my building throughout the day as well. And once that child is 3 and can then transition, they are automatically saved a slot at Little Panthers Preschool so that we can continue their services. For all of our birth to 5 special education services, so not just EDN, all of birth to 5 SPED, we're currently serving 120 students. A year ago at this time, we were serving approximately 75. So what we are seeing and what all the research was showing was that COVID was going to impact our referrals and our verifications, and that has been correct. We are getting vastly more referrals for children under the age of 5, and a large percentage of those children are meeting criteria for qualifying for services. So our SPED numbers are kind of exploding at the early childhood level, but we're very fortunate that we have a team that's dedicated to birth to 5 services, so they're not having to serve the entire district, and so that makes it a little more manageable. And for the early development network side of it, I didn't have a family that was going to come, but I was going to let you know that the 2 children I am going to highlight today, both were in early development network. They received those services along with these other programs. So the next program I'm going to share about is Sixpence. This is a home visitation program that we have within our district. We have 3 family facilitators also going into the home. The difference is this program is really focused on learning how to be the best parent you can be. So your child does not have to have a delay or a disability. It's just your family meets a risk factor criteria, and so you can qualify for the Sixpence program. The visits typically occur 3 times a month, and then we have a monthly family activity night where we bring all of our Sixpence families and their kiddos together. We provide a meal, we do an education topic, and also just get our parents comfortable with the Little Panthers Preschool building, because most of their children will then transition to our program because they're again saved a slot. Right now we serve 37 children in Sixpence, and I'm going to highlight one of our Sixpence families and on this next slide. So I want you to meet Emiliano, Alize, and Angel. Trust me, it'd be way more fun if they were here because he's adorable. So a little bit about their family. Alize and Angel began the Sixpence program when Alize was pregnant. Alize gave birth to twins at 30 weeks, so much sooner than she expected. Emiliano and his twin brother, Princeton, were born at 30 weeks. Unfortunately, Princeton passed away. We have served Emiliano and his family since then. He's now 20 months old. And what's wonderful about the Sixpence program is their family facilitator was there to support them through the happiness of having a baby, the trauma of losing a child, all the scary of bringing home a NICU baby. And so I have a little video from them just about the Sixpence program. Unfortunately, it cut off, so there is 2 parts. But just a little bit about why they joined the program and also what they've benefited. So we'll have Mr. Wilson switch to that.
What made you guys decide to enroll in Sixpence?
Well, when I first found out I was pregnant, we actually got referred by family members. My sister-in-law has been in Sixpence for a long time, and then we just outreached, and then went from there.
What do you feel your family has gained from being in the Sixpence program?
Learning a lot about babies, how to take care of them and stuff.
being first-time parents, we definitely didn't know what to expect. So we gained like another family support outside of our actual family. It helped a lot with learning milestones and just prenatal stuff because pregnancy was scary. So it was a lot of information that we gained.
What skills have you learned as a parent from being in Sixpence?
With him going from a feeding tube, like it was scary trying to adjust to like him eating baby food and then regular food. And another important one was like baby ASL. We got a lot of packets, but any questions we ever had, we got a lot of information. Like we would go back and forth texting or anything I could think of, because it was a lot of scary stuff coming from the NICU.
Learning to get him in on a schedule, like a sleeping schedule, and also getting him to sleep in the crib. Well, we still haven't gotten that down, but
Oh yeah,
still.
Safe sleep was a big one too.
Yeah.
All right, and last but not least, what do you love about Rachel?
Attitude.
Everything. She's amazing.
Everything.
Like the
Definitely.
positive attitude, like no dumb questions. Like we feel so comfortable asking anything and everything.
I think the first day I felt comfortable with you.
Yeah,
I
we-
never get like
It
that.
just clicked. Because I feel like it was also scary, especially like just telling her where we came from and everything, like everything we've been through, we would never judge. And just like the extra information, like we would have a question and she would come back with like 6 packets. So we always just bounced off ideas and like sensory play.
You were really on point too. Like how she said, you would always bring us packets and stuff. You would remember, like you care about us. And I like that.
Yeah. We would not change anything.
No.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
I wrote the question, so it's not that Rachel was trying to get a good plug in there, but she has worked very hard as their family facilitator, and they have a very strong, trusting relationship. So that is so important for that first impression of Norfolk Public Schools, that the family feels supported, feels heard, and feels valued in what they know and what they don't know. And as you can see with Mr. Emiliano, he's up and moving and he's noisy and he's doing all the things he's supposed to do. So that's why he graduated from Early Development Network, is because he doesn't need those services anymore. But he will hopefully transition to Little Panthers Preschool not too long from now. Moving on to Little Panthers. We currently serve 240 students at Little Panthers Preschool. We have 11 classrooms, 2 of those being 3-year-olds and 9 classrooms of 4-year-olds. Our 3-year-olds go half day, our 4-year-olds go full day. We are completely full. We've been full since we moved into our facility 5 years ago. And we have an ongoing waiting list. Our biggest waiting list is 3-year-olds because we currently only have 2 3-year-old classrooms. But we continue to meet the need of 4-year-olds, which is our priority. And the highlight student that I want to share about from Little Panthers is Cardi. Cardi was also an Early Development Network child that we served from the time she was 2 months old. And I can tell you right now, if she was in the room, you would not be listening to a word that I'm saying, because she's very captivating with her great smile, and she has a very outgoing personality. So a little bit about this family. Cardi, her dad Ryan, and then she has a sister Rihanna. And Cardi started receiving EDN services when she was 2 months old. She has a diagnosis of Joubert syndrome. This is a genetic condition that affects brain development and motor coordination. So throughout Cardi's time in Early Development Network and now at Little Panthers, she's receiving OT, PT, speech, special education resource, teacher of the visually impaired, teacher of the deaf, and services coordination when she was in the home. And so when I'm talking about this team, it's bringing together an entire team that has a focus on how can we move this student forward, because she should have success in her preschool day just like every other student. It's just her version of success looks a little bit different. She is so loved in our program. Everybody knows who Cardi is. She's made significant growth in a lot of areas. A couple pictures up here, Ryan with Cardi, and sadly one of her hospital stays. She does get sick fairly easily, unfortunately, but you can see from her smile it doesn't slow her down too much. And then recently, Ryan and the girls went to the National Joe Bear Syndrome big conference, and so he came back with lots of information about pretty much reinforcing, like, you guys are doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Good job. So he was really excited to see that everything that we were doing for Cardi is exactly what they are suggesting. Ryan wanted so badly to be here today because he is so proud of Cardi. He wanted to share a little bit about all the growth that he's made as a parent as well, but unfortunately he couldn't get off work. And so he did just share that I appreciate everything that LPP has done for Cardi. To be honest, without Early Development Network and Little Panthers Preschool, I wouldn't be the parent I am today, and Cardi wouldn't be where she is now. And I think if you click on that, it's just a brief little video of Cardi, just so you can get a snippet of all she's accomplishing.
Can you pick one more color? Tell me with your iPad. What color do you want to talk about next?
Orange.
You want to talk about orange things? Wait, tell me again.
Orange.
Orange, okay. Here's the orange bucket, Cardi.
So we have tons of videos of Cardi. You can see her moving around the school in her gait trainer. She's learned how to propel her own wheelchair. She's eating orally. Like, there's so many great things happening for her. And we always celebrate her demonstrating her desire for independence. We keep reminding Ryan it's independence, not stubborn. Sometimes she can be a little or like to push back a little bit when she has expectations, but we keep reminding him that's a part of great development. She's wanting to advocate for herself, so that's awesome. Like I said, if these two families would have been here, you would have gotten a really great experience. They're doing so many great things, but I wanted to highlight that it's not just about the kids. It's really about the families and the families finding success, and also the families putting the trust into Norfolk Public Schools. Just a little bit of data as we move on. So from 2014 to 2019, we had 5-year ongoing trend data that showed an average percentage of around 18% of kids entering kindergarten classrooms with no preschool experience at all. And what we were finding is, obviously, these kids were starting behind their peers. And not even so much the academic side of it, it's the social side. Just knowing how to be socially around peers and listen to other adults. And so we knew we needed to address this because at the time we were still at Lincoln Elementary and Washington Elementary for our preschool classrooms, and we had no room to grow, and they needed us out. So we were looking for ways that we could address that need. That's when the one of our goals came about for the when we came up with the strategic planning goals in 2018. This was super exciting because early childhood is not typically a focus for most school districts. There are so many other things that have to take precedence, but it was amazing that not only the strategic planning team, but also the school board took a focus on early childhood and adopted a goal. And the real focus of this goal was not just on Little Panthers Preschool. It was focused on growing the collaboration with all of the early childhood programs in our community. Because currently at Little Panthers, we serve 180 4-year-olds that will transition to kindergarten. Well, in entering kindergarten classes, approximately 330 students. So we know there are still over 100 children going other places, receiving preschool and childcare services that are likely going to become NPS students. So we can't just focus on the LPP students, we have to focus on all the other places where these children are attending. And so part of that is collaboration with those in-home providers and childcare centers and talking about what does quality look like. And so one of the things that formed out of this goal is Power of Preschool. And so one of the things in your envelope is also one of our Power of Preschool magnets that we share out, helping guide parents to know how to look for high quality. But a lot of this work has focused on sharing information, sharing training opportunities. And so we've grown our Power Preschool organization. We have 20 different in-home providers, childcare centers, childcare directors that are participating in Power Preschool. We meet on a monthly basis to talk about how we can continue to support each other in growing quality. So if you ever want to know more about that, I would be glad to share. So with all the work we've done, if you remember, we were at 18% up until 2019. We've been slowly working away on that percentage. With our 2023 data, we are down to 5% of students entering kindergarten having had no preschool experience. Obviously, our goal was to get to no kids entering kindergarten, but we have also learned that there are some families that don't want to do preschool and want to have that time at home with their children, and that is completely their choice. But the biggest thing is we just want to be sure that the offerings are available for the children who have parents that want them to attend a location. So that is a part of our ongoing work. I will wrap up by just saying that we are very fortunate to have a board and an administrative leadership that believes in and values the importance of early childhood. Your support has had an amazing impact on children and families in our community, and I look forward to what our programs can continue to offer. And I will open it up to any questions.
Thank you, Melissa. That was great. I remember when we were doing these strategic goals in fall 23 seemed so far away.
Yes.
And I know you're goal-oriented, so now that you've achieved that goal, what's next?
We have talked a lot even about, like, with Power Preschool. You know, once we completed our 5 years and were able to cross everything off our action plan, it was like, well, now what do we do? Do we still keep meeting? Like, is this necessary? But it was amazing to see so many of those providers say, yes, we need to keep meeting, just because, especially doing, you know, in-home childcare or even early childhood, you feel very much on an island sometimes. And what we found is a lot of our in-home providers want to get kids ready for kindergarten, but they really don't know for sure what to focus on. And so part of it is just getting out information of what does kindergarten readiness look like and what kinds of trainings would benefit you as a provider. So I think that's a part of our ongoing work, is just making sure that providers in our community feel supported. You know, as far as Little Panthers, I feel like we've had such an explosion in the last 5 years that it would be kind of nice to just have a little bit of consistency for a couple of years and get into a sense of calm, and then we can rev up for maybe what needs to happen next. But we've had a lot of change and growth in especially the last 5 years. So maybe a sense of calm would be nice for just a little bit.
And I know for our taxpayers, it might look like a lot of money and kind of scary, but quite a bit of this is grant funded. Correct?
Yes. So the Sixpence program is entirely grant funded. We reapply for those funds every year. The district provides in-kind, like office space, but the actual operations of Sixpence is completely grant funded. We receive funds that help with Early Development Network, just as far as the child find side of it. And then we've received multiple NDE expansion grants in order to add the classrooms that we have at Little Panthers. So it's a very competitive application, but we've been very fortunate to receive funding that gets you your startup funds for that first year. And then we've been fortunate to receive some minor continuation funds into future years, but we know it's a huge cost for the district to take on in the long term. But I hope as we continue to show the data, we will see that what we're doing at early childhood matters in the long run for our students, and so it's money well spent.
I just want to add, I've been there a couple of times. Melissa, you are amazing, and you're an amazing presenter.
Well, thanks. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Melissa. Oh, 9.2 is Award for Excellence. We had all the fun stuff right now. Angie Bauman.
Thank you, Madam President. So, as you know, those that attend our board meetings, 5 times out of the school year, we do present the Award for Excellence. Beth, I think you'll find it's maybe the most rewarding committee to be on. I don't know, but, you know, we talk about a lot of great staff, and it's always a difficult decision because we get great nominations from our students, our parents, our staff, and our administrators. So I think you will enjoy that. Today, I am very honored to present the Award for Excellence to Mr. Jim Sponel, if he could come up. So I'm going to read some tidbits of the nominations that we received. I received quite a few nominations from a variety of staff. Some of the great things said about Mr. Spanel is that he's an outstanding teacher and a phenomenal role model for our students. He has a positive outlook and believes in his students' ability to succeed. He is supportive of all students. He is an outstanding human being. He is always willing to help anyone and everyone. He was one of my favorite coaches in school, and I was honored to be able to coach with him for a year. No one fills the role of excellence as well as he does. Mr. Spanel is kind, positive, and goes above and beyond as a teacher. He truly does whatever it takes to make sure his students are getting the education they deserve. He always has a smile on his face, and his energy is contagious. And one more, Mr. Spanel is the most kind and compassionate person I know. He would do anything for anybody at any time. He puts so much energy and enthusiasm into every day and loves his students like his own kids. He is what I aspire to be as I continue to grow as an educator. So, Mr. Spanel, I have this plaque for you. Mr. Spanel will receive a $50 gift card donated from Hy-Vee, so I thank Hy-Vee for that. They have done that for several years for our program. And then he will have $500 that he will work with Dr. Jen Robinson to determine a benefit for students at the junior high. Dr. Robinson, did you want to say a few words? I figured.
Thank you very much. Jim is very deserving of this award. He is a great teacher. He has taught a couple of my kids, and they have very fond memories of him as well. He's very humble. When we first were talking about this award and having him come over, he was like, anybody could have gotten this award. And yet that's true, Jim, but yet you got it because you deserve it. And he's just a great asset to our staff and a great role model for a lot of people. So I could keep going on, but I know you guys want to eventually get home. So congratulations, Jim. Very proud of you.
Okay.
You know, Norfolk Public Schools, for 33 years, they've been such a blessing to our family, especially Norfolk Junior High, to me and my family. And I work with so many wonderful people. The staff at the junior high is my family, my brothers and sisters, so it's really easy to get up and go to work. I can't imagine retiring. Someday I'm going to, but I'm going to find out what that's like, I guess. But it'll be hard not to see those special people every day. They're just awesome. The junior high is a great place to teach, so thank you so much.
Switch sides on you. Hold on, I want to give you this. So here's a copy of all your nice comments and your gift card, and that's what the plaque was in. Thank you.
Congratulations. Okay, just on with the fun stuff. 9.3 is recognition of School Board Appreciation Week. Dr. Thompson.
Thank you. The Norfolk Public Schools staff, administration, and students would like to thank the individuals that serve on the Board of Education for their dedicated service. Although School Board Appreciation Week will actually occur January 21st through 28th, we want to take some time now to tell you that we really appreciate everything you do for Norfolk Public Schools. I know it takes a lot of time and effort, and that is all done on a volunteer basis in order to ensure that all of our students are provided with outstanding learning opportunities to prepare them for their goals for the future. We have a variety of gifts for you over on the table from students and staff across the district, as well as a short video from the Nebraska Association of School Boards to remind you why you have chosen to serve as a member of the Norfolk Public Schools Board of Education.
So what was it that made you put your name on the ballot? Whatever your reason, here you are. You stand and serve to pay forward the efforts of parents, mentors, and teachers. For your child, grandchild, the new student, the lost student, anyone who needs a voice. With every election year comes hard decisions. Do I continue to serve for another term, or is it someone else's chance to lead? At some point for you all, the meetings will end and someone else will sit in that chair. but your hard work, dedication, and hours of service will be everlasting. As this year's school board member graduating class makes their final motions and leaves their boardroom one last time, we ask them what exactly they would like the next crop of school board members to know.
After 35 years, I guess it is time to let someone else enjoy the rewards. Having the opportunity to be even a small part of our district has made it so worthwhile. Yes, there have been challenges, and the time needed to be an effective board member can be taxing. But all that simply emphasizes the importance. Never stop learning. Attend any workshop you can, and never forget that this is a we job, not a me job.
With the school being the most vital business in our small town, what better place to serve? As a graduate and young mother, I wanted to make sure the kids of the community were being well taken care of. I take pride that our students receive a top-notch education and can participate in multiple activities that they will benefit from and remember for life. Ask questions, stay engaged, and always keep your students and their families in mind when making policy decisions.
I cannot think of a better quote, volunteer opportunity than to be on a local public school board. Added my time serving as NASB president, I have been able to meet and network with fantastic people dedicated to public schools within not only my district, but throughout Nebraska and across the nation. Being on the board has allowed me to support those who truly make the difference in kids' lives. Stay true to your key responsibilities. The district is bigger and more important than any one person.
In my time on the board, I've met and worked with some wonderful people. We all share a sincere interest and love for our children and their education. I understand the role a good school and quality education play in the growth and stability of our rural communities, and am so fortunate to have been a part of that. Keep an open mind, communicate, and be transparent. Have fun, and know your role on the board is extremely important and one to be taken very seriously.
What started as a way to give back to our community has allowed me to see and be a part of progressive changes. We have updated the high school, added career academies, modernized elementary buildings, and so much more. Plus, to have our community support and embrace each of these items is beyond words. As I step aside, my advice is simple. Get involved, show up, and know your policies.
A school of our size is truly the focus of the community. There have been challenges and changes. Students are different today than 20 years ago, and we as a board have had to adapt. Part of this role is keeping an open mind, as well as putting in the time to prepare yourself for the unexpected. Always think about how your decision is going to affect the education of the students and the community you live in.
Children have little choice in what happens to them, and I wanted to help give a voice to those who were often unheard. Going in, I didn't understand the amount of time it took to be an effective school board member, but always kept my focus on my why, the kids. To the next group of school board members, understand the reasons public schools exist and know your role in making sure your district stays focused on serving all children and give them a chance to thrive in an ever-changing world.
Wow! During my time on the board, we opened a new elementary school, passed a bond to remodel and add on to our high school, and have significantly moved the district forward, especially in early childhood education. However, hiring 3 superintendents during my tenure was not something I had anticipated. In the end, remember that everything we do should be what's best for the kids. You will be tested. Follow the chain of command. Be tough. You've got this.
My biggest reward is the steps we have taken to drive academic achievement. Board members have the responsibility to act and make decisions in the best interest of the students, not their own individual interests. This involves investing their personal time and effort to stay informed. Communicate with other board members and your administration. You must govern as a team. Attend all learning opportunities so you can be thoroughly versed on the role and responsibilities of a board member.
I ran to be an advocate for our students and to represent my community as an ag landowner. Along the way, I've seen small kids turn into incredible young adults. Seeing all children succeed, no matter the obstacles in front of them, is a true joy. There have been bumps in the road, but engaging with your fellow board members and with your administration is key. Educate yourself. Put your personal agenda aside. And remember, you work for all students, your staff, and the taxpayers in your district.
The ability to have a positive impact on our students was why I first got involved. Collaborate as a board. Be open-minded about all the opinions of your fellow board members and be ready to compromise. No single person has all the answers. Accept your board duties with no agenda other than maintaining a great learning environment for your students. Ultimately, our goal with every decision as a board is to positively impact the students and our communities.
There's no bigger award than celebrating the successes of our students. Growing up, my dad served on the school board for 17 years, and he encouraged me to run. I have learned so much, and I am grateful to have had this opportunity. Keep your focus on the kids, and remember that alone we have no power. But when we work together as a team, our students can reach high levels of success.
Following our boys' elementary years, I was looking for a meaningful way to give back to an institution that had a tremendous impact on our family up to that point. This business is about kids. Never lose sight of what impact a decision will have on the welfare and overall experience for them. To the future school board members out there, listen more, talk less. Go to trainings, continue to learn and grow in your role. Set boundaries, but be present and visible. It's important for your school and community to see you. And on a day where things don't feel quite right, visit an elementary building. That's where you will be reminded of what you are doing and why.
So there you go. Stay informed. Understand the reasons public schools exist. Keep your students and their families in mind when making decisions. Collaborate and govern as a team. Prepare for the unexpected. Be tough, but have fun. Thank you to the class of for your time, commitment, and dedication to the betterment of all things public education in Nebraska. Your district, community, and the state is a better place because of you and the path you've paved for the next generation of school board members.
Thank you for all of your time. I know it takes a lot of behind-the-scenes time that the people who come to the meetings don't realize with all the reading and the conversation that has to occur, but the reason for doing it is well worth it.
Thank you. I remember a year ago when the four of you came brand new and you got all these gifts and you're like, yeah, I love school board. First meeting, didn't even make it through. And now a year later, like, yeah, I earned these gifts. Thank you. Thank you all. Okay, we are to, did anybody else want to say anything? Sorry. 9.4, Strategic Growth Plan Presentation. Dr. Thompson.
Thank you. The Norfolk Public Schools Board of Education and our administrative team have worked very proactively over the last decade to monitor student enrollment very closely and make both staffing and facility decisions necessary to maintain appropriate class sizes. Current enrollment projections indicate that district enrollment will continue to grow at a rate of about 0.5% each year. That's not a lot, but it is growth, and that's important. The actual amount of growth varies at different individual buildings and grade levels, as we have some unusually small classes going through and some unusually large classes going through. And when you look at the chart, you can really see we had some real steady growth right up until the pandemic, a sharp drop, and now we're coming back up. So we're seeing that trend line come back up in our favor. Our enrollment at the elementary level is now above our pre-pandemic levels. It has increased by 150 students since 2010 and is expected to reach a high of 1,669 students in the year 2028. I only do projections 5 years out. Any beyond that is really hard to project. That addition of 37 students will be spread across 75 sections. So it's an increase of less than 1 of a student per section, which results in an average class size of 22.3 students. Our recent additions at Bel Air and Lincoln Montessori Elementary Schools should be sufficient to accommodate that growth comfortably. However, we do have to take a deeper look at our elementary data because it indicates that our students are not evenly spread out across the district. As the population growth within our community has shifted, enrollment in some of our elementary schools has increased, and the enrollment in other elementaries has decreased. So the following charts will show a more detailed analysis by building level. Enrollment at Jefferson and Washington elementary schools has increased significantly in recent years. That is due to new developments and housing developments in those areas that have brought more population growth. If you look at the enrollment in Lincoln Elementary, that has also increased significantly. However, that is due to our purposeful expansion of Montessori program, and it is controlled. We know how much bigger that will be. In fact, it's about at its limit right now. We also see a corresponding decrease in the population at Bel Air, which was also purposefully planned. Many of the students choose to go to the Lincoln Montessori program. Elementary schools that have a decrease in enrollment include Grant, Westside, and Woodland Park Elementary Schools. A more thorough analysis of population growth within our community and our elementary schools should be considered by an outside consultant to help determine whether boundary changes are necessary to evenly distribute our student population across our elementary schools. The average class sizes for the different buildings are listed there, and they range from 19 to over 26. But there's even more variability when you look at individual classes. We have a kindergarten class at Grant that has 16 students in it, and we have another class across the district that has 27. So we really need to look at redoing our elementary boundaries so those are more evenly distributed. However, we do not recommend any additional staff right now. We just want to look at those elementary boundaries. Middle school enrollment has grown significantly since 2010. However, our two smallest classes are at the middle school right now. The class of 2029 and the class of 2030 are very small for some reason. Enrollment projections indicate that class sizes will start to rebound next year in 2024 when the first of the two small classes moves to the junior high, and then will be fully rebounded when the next of those small classes moves on. Middle school enrollment is projected to reach an all-time high of 673 students in 2027, resulted in average core class sizes of 24. A middle school addition is tentatively planned to accommodate our larger specials classes. Those tend to be much bigger than our core classes, and also to provide our students and staff with a safe and secure entrance. No additional staff is recommended at this time. You can stop me at any time if you have questions, by the way. Enrollment at the junior high increased by approximately 70 students from 2010 to 2019, but this is slightly below that level now. Numbers are not expected to exceed our previous high by much in the foreseeable future. I think in 2028 it exceeds our highest by 3 students. The additional classrooms and staffing that have been added previously should be sufficient to maintain appropriate class sizes with an average core class size of 22.5. Our specials and elective class sizes vary significantly at the junior high because student choice becomes a factor at the junior high level. However, no additional staff is recommended for next year. Similarly, enrollment at the senior high increased by approximately 139 students from 2010 to 2019, but is slightly below that level now. Enrollment projections indicate varying class sizes through 2028 with a high of 1,369 in 2025, which will be slightly above our previous high. Class sizes at the senior high vary significantly based upon the courses, as student choice is a factor in all courses at the senior high level. However, the staffing that we hired previously should be sufficient to maintain appropriate class sizes. No additional staffing is requested at this time, although it should be noted that space is very limited at the senior high. It is possible that additional classroom space may be warranted in the future if more course offerings were made available. At this time, no staff is recommended. Now we look at our special programs. Special education and English language learner program staffing is evaluated and adjusted on a continual basis all throughout the year. That is in order to address student needs and or meet state and federal requirements. These programs have been growing both in number and in the intensity and the variety of needs. Norfolk Public Schools has experienced a large increase in the number of special education students served across the district. In the last 5 years, our special education enrollment has increased from 686 to 839 students, which is an increase of 153 students. The board approved the hiring of 3 additional resource teachers to address this increase last year. No additional special ed staff is recommended for 24-25. However, we are still trying to fill our speech language, our school psychology, and special education resource positions from 23-24. Sorry. Norfolk Public Schools has also experienced an increase in the number of English language learner students served across the district. In the last 5 years, our number of ELL students increased from 203 to 278 students, with the number of newcomers more than tripling, from 41 to 128. Newcomers are students that are brand new to our country and speak little to no English. They require a much higher level of service than ELL students who have been in our country for a few years. The board granted us permission to hire 2 additional ELL teachers last year to assist with our increase in non-English speaking Ukrainian students. However, our needs in this area continue to grow. We hired a temporary half-time substitute ELL teacher to help with the large ELL caseload at Washington Elementary throughout second quarter. The needs at this building have continued to grow, and it is recommended that we now place this teacher on a half-time teaching contract for the rest of the second semester. That would be a 1 half-time teacher addition. It is also recommended that we hire 1.5 additional ELL teachers next year, 1 for the senior high and 1 to be split between the elementary and middle schools. ELL services are required by federal and state statute. However, we receive little federal or state funding to assist with those costs. The estimated cost to the district for these positions is $140,000. Little Panthers Preschool, we do not anticipate a need for additional staff at LPP next year, as our waiting list for 4-year-olds is minimal at this point. We do have a waiting list for 3-year-olds, but we are not planning to expand the 3-year-old program at this point, as we do not receive any funding for 3-year-olds. We get TIOSA funding for 4-year-olds, but not for younger kids. We take a close look at the funding and put safeguards in place. We're very purposeful about this. Our staffing and financial situation are evaluated each year before committing additional staff, giving us flexibility to put the hold on future additions if necessary due to a financial situational change. We'll take a look at the chart below for a detailed explanation regarding how this plan could be funded moving forward. But I need you to keep in mind that the numbers are very rough estimates. It's only December, and we won't actually do the budget until August. But we need to have an idea in order for you to know if we can afford to hire these 2 additional teachers. So right now, we have on the left-hand side increases in our expenditures or our costs that I anticipate moving into the next year. And on the right-hand side, we have increases in revenue that I anticipate. So on the left-hand side, we know that our annual salary increases for our current staff are estimated to cost about $1.8 million. That's based upon the 4% increase that was previously approved. We still have to bring another $500,000, $500,000 into our budget. That was used to cover a staffing increase. We had to take some of that out of cash reserve. The 2 additional ELL teachers would be $140,000. We have 2 licensed mental health practitioners that are currently covered through our ESSERS funding, the COVID money, at 100% rate. Moving into next year, they would be to special education, which has an 80% coverage. So that would be an addition of $40,000. Not more people, just a shift in the funding. The state has said that they are no longer going to pay for our MAP testing moving forward. So if we continue to pay for that, I'm estimating that at $50,000. That's a very rough estimate. We have to get some costs from the company. We would like to $50,000, actually a lot more than that if you talk to our safety director. Additional safety equipment. There are $11,500 in additional activities positions that are up for approval tonight. And then I put for all $10,000 for a total of $2,661,500 additional expenditures for next year. On the right-hand side, increase if 3% to stay below the governor recommended cap, and we had a 98-cent levy. That would bring in 1.9, almost $2 million. And we're estimating a $500,000 state aid increase. That would be $2.4 million, which would leave us a deficit of $189 to take out of cash reserves, which is much, much less than we did this year. Moving into 25-26, because I think you have to look at least 2 years out. We did another $1.8 million annual salary increase. We would need to bring in that $189,000 that we're taking out of cash reserves in 24-25 into the budget. I'm guessing $100,000 in additional staffing. Again, 1% growth for all other areas. That would be just under $2.2 million increase. Again, if we kept our valuation increase to that 3% governor cap and did a levy of $1, that would be $2.7 million, state aid increase of $500,000. That would be just over $2.2 million, and we would not have to take any out of cash reserves. That actually leaves about $9,881 above. But again, those are very rough estimates. I just try to give you a picture of what it might look like as we move forward. A couple of important notes as you look at those expenditures and revenues. In 24-25, 3 cents will need to be moved from the special building fund levy to the general fund level in order to cover our 23-24 and our 24-25 salary increases. Then in 25-26, we would move 2 more cents from the special building fund to the general fund levy to cover those increases. That would basically eliminate our special building fund levy. But at this point, we don't have any major projects that we are planning. And that is what the special building fund is for. It's for large projects. So I won't go through, but that just shows what our predicted levy could look like if we followed this plan. It shows, again, just keeping a very slight to moderate decrease moving forward. Effect on the cash reserves. We know that it's important we maintain 2 to 3 months worth of operating expenses on hand in the general fund for cash flow, as well as for emergency expenditure purposes. 1 month of expenditures for the district is $4.8 million. So our 22-23 estimated ending balance, or at actual ending balance, was $13,812,674, which was 2.88 months of operating expenses. 23-24, we're projecting a $2.1 million use of cash reserves, which would bring our projected cash balance down to $11.7 million, or 2.44 months. 24-25, we're projecting a use of $189,000 for that carryover staffing, which would bring us down slightly to $11.5 million, or 2.4 months of operating expenses. And then the next year, we don't anticipate taking any more out of cash reserve. Some important notes about that. These planned withdrawals from cash reserves could be lower depending on the amount of additional special education reimbursement that we receive this year. Our budgeting figures included a $1.1 million increase. However, some projections are higher than that, and we are hoping that it will be more than that. If that is the case, then we won't have to take as much out of cash reserves, and those balances will remain higher. Another note is that as we get closer to budget time, I recommend $100,000 to $300,000 withdraw from cash reserves for safety equipment if we get grant funding. Or that we were hoping to do through grant funding that are still important whether that grant funding is available or not. So a one-time use of those funds could be appropriate. So in conclusion, the Norfolk Public Schools Board of Education and administrative team has worked hard to increase staffing where necessary to address student enrollment growth while also investing in infrastructure improvements and additions. As we move forward, more funding will need to go towards staff compensation, require a temporary planned use of our cash reserves, and a shift of our levy from the special building fund to the general fund. However, it will not require an increase in our tax levy unless down the road we decide that it's necessary to complete renovations or major additions to our facilities via a bond issue, which the board and the community would have some say in. Or I always have to throw in the caveat, or if there are significant changes to Nebraska's school funding formula, because we just don't know. There's always bills in the legislature that could potentially impact that. And I did want to also note that the costs for our middle school addition are included in these figures in regards to cash reserves. Are there any questions? It's a lot of information, but just so the public knows, the board had this for, I don't know, a week or two, so they had some time to look over it.
Just a quick question on where the money's coming in. I'm always a little bit confused with why we don't show the sped money, because we have the potential of $3.1 million coming back in. I realize it's money we spent last year, but it's still money coming in as well as going out, but there's no note of it here.
It's not noted here, but it's within the budget. We budgeted 1.1 million is what NDE gave us a formula for. So there is 1.1 million in the budget for this year. Based on our first reimbursement that we got in December, that could be higher. I don't know if it'll be as high as 3.1 million, but I'm guessing it'll be in the twos at least. So we estimated it low, because we always estimate revenues low and our expenditures high, because the last thing we want is to run out of cash during the school year.
It's noted in your reserves that we have that money coming in?
It is in the budget, yes.
Right, okay.
Yes.
Well, I'm just wondering why you don't ever show it as money coming in. Just a question. I mean, I see what you're doing with evaluations, but the sped money is a big variable. I mean, that does come in.
Yeah, I mean, there are all kinds of variables coming in. And the increase was in this school year, so it's not an increase that would be noted for the future.
Makes sense. Just because we got a big check in this month or last month, so taxpayers probably would like to know it, like 900,000.
Yeah, just over 800, but yeah. So yeah, the estimates for increases that I'm putting in are for future years, not for this specific year. Those are what the increases were in here.
Right, thank you.
You had talked about in one of our previous meetings, the building principals go through and kind of do an assessment of the buildings to see if there are projects that might need to be done in the future. When does that happen?
So they have submitted their information to us, and now in the next month or two, Mr. Wilson and I are going to do individual visits to their buildings so they can go through that with us and show us what they're looking at. And then we'll start to prioritize those with the Finance and Facilities Committee and put a large-scale facilities growth plan together. I do anticipate that there'll be some things that come out in that process.
Thank you. And then my other question is going back to the growth. If there would need to be a plan to revisit the boundaries for the elementary schools, how does that process work, and when would that happen?
So I would recommend that we hire an outside company, RSP, to come in and they do much more sophisticated enrollment projections that can look at varying neighborhoods and the developments that are coming in and the age of the residents and all of that, and do a much more sophisticated projections. And then they would help to determine, they can move those boundaries around and see how enrollment in each school would be affected. And they would come in and they would actually have meetings with the board and the community to talk through that process. We would want to have a very open process because people are very invested and they love their neighborhood school. And so it can be very emotional for folks if we look at changing those boundaries. But I do think it's probably time for us to take a look. I know elementary teachers and principals have been asking because they're noticing, you know, a class size of 16 here and 26 or 27 over there. That's a big difference for an elementary teacher.
Thank you.
How much does something like that cost to hire? Do you have a ballpark figure?
We had gotten an estimate last summer, and it was $49,000. I did put that into the board budget for this year, so the money is there if we decide to go forward with that.
And you cannot buy the software. You have to use the company.
Could sure try, though, couldn't we? Okay, thank you, Dr. Thompson. That was a lot of information.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, we are to 10. 10 is public comments and communication. This is the time during the meeting when the public may request to address the board. According to state law, if you wish to comment, you must identify yourself, including your address, the name of the organization you represent, and the topic you wish to address. Public comment cards are located at the media table in the back of the room. Please pick up a card and provide the required information if you plan to speak. Each individual's comments will be limited to 5 minutes. Please note that the board cannot discuss or act upon matters that are not listed on the agenda. Therefore, board members will not respond to your comments or questions. If you wish to request that an item be placed on a future board agenda, you may contact the superintendent or her assistant during normal business hours. Also note that concerns related to school personnel need to be addressed to the superintendent using the approved district protocol. Individuals who make false, defamatory, or slanderous statements during public comments may be held legally liable. Slanderous comments are not protected just because they are made at board meetings. Would somebody like to speak?
I am Sophie Curtis. My address is 123 Jefferson Avenue. Good afternoon, NPS School Board. My name is Sophie Curtis. I am a sophomore at Norfolk Public High School. I am a member of our school's All Rights Reserved, or AWR program. Last year was my first season with them, and I would love to thank our wonderful coaches, Michael Grove and Jen Impinson, as well as the operators from the Nebraska Writers Collective for creating and keeping such a beautiful program alive. Being a part of AWR the last 2 years has been such a blessing for me. I've met new people who have not only become wonderful friends, but have also shared a common passion of writing with me. Walking into practice, I felt accepted, safe, and most importantly, listened to. This activity always brought my mood up no matter what happened at school that day. I knew in the first meeting I had found a place. I have never once felt alone, ashamed, or unaccepted during any of my time with AWR. Last year, our team was small but mighty. I shared some of my best freshman year memories with our team. Now this year, we have the benefit of having so many new faces. It is a beautiful thing to be able to share a love and passion for writing. As Mike says, turning a personal truth into a universal truth, being able to impact others with the words, experiences, and battles you have seen in your life, while at the same time letting other people know that they are not alone. Last year, I heard poems about love, anger, feminism, school shootings, depression, and so much more. Spoken word poetry is much more than reading words off of a paper. It is a delicate art. It is one thing to create a poem, and it is a whole other thing to ensure that the poem is effective, and that is exactly what we do. Before anyone in our team performs, we have a callback of "Speak the Truth." I find those 3 words to be the strongest way to explain the mission of this program. When performing, it is so important to remember that you are not performing just for points or winning. You're performing to share your words with the world. You're speaking your words into existence. AWR is a safe and loving environment that I would recommend to any poets, performers, or writers in our school. AWR is not only a team, but a family. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sophie.
Hi, my name is Charlie DeMoss. I live in Woodland Park, and I'm a junior at Norfolk Senior High. I've been a member of AWR for 3 years now, so I'm disappointed to see that it's being reconsidered, especially considering how beneficial it has been to myself and many others academically. Because of that, I would like to show everyone here a quick glimpse into what AWR is about and what it has done for me and other students. Going to AWR has helped me improve my ability to quickly analyze texts and determine their meaning and themes, especially on tests such as the ACT. In AWR, we practice finding the point of poems and figuring out what the author is trying to accomplish with them. These skills are highly transferable to any English class and any tests that students undergo while in school. I've also found that AWR has helped me give better criticism during writers' workshop sessions, inside and outside of the classroom. Just last semester, in my dual credit English class, we had to complete a writer's workshopping session for every essay and narrative that we wrote as a part of the curriculum. And even as somebody who typically dreads partner work, I found myself excited for the writer's workshop because of how positive of an experience it's always been in AWR. In AWR, when we workshop a poem, we often spend hours as a group discussing the poem, what its meaning is, the goals of the poem, and how to accomplish those goals. It's an extremely important part of how we write our poems because it's how we create the first viable draft. Once a poem has gone through this process multiple times and has been revised to a good point, we move on to presentation. AWR is not just any poetry club, it is a spoken word poetry club, which means it requires an extremely good understanding of public speaking and performance. If you're a good poet, then almost every move you make is scripted while still feeling natural and enhancing the poem. In order to incorporate tone of voice and gestures into a poem, we go through the entire text, line by line, and decide what it will sound like. We go through different variations of it and try different ideas out. Should this line end on a higher or lower pitch? Do I need a specific gesture on this line? How high should my hands be during this line of the poem? All of this has aided me in my writings and performances and has helped me improve my public speaking skills. Not to mention that we are all working on multiple poems at the same time. Every school that competes at the poetry bouts held by the Nebraska Writers Collective is required to have a certain number of individual or duet poems, as well as a group poem that are all original and created by the performers themselves. For our school, this is typically 4 individual poems and 1 group poem. I myself have performed 2 different individual poems and in 2 different group poems while I've been in the program. The group poem in particular has also helped me become better at collaborating with others. The process of making a group poem is also just incredibly fun and enriching. To create a group poem, we discuss as a group any topics that we feel are important to us. We write down all of the topics on a large list before picking out topics that are similar and that interest us the most. From there, we free write about each topic separately and generate as much content as we can. The goal during this stage is never to actively try and write a poem. This step is all about writing down our ideas and thoughts, regardless of how poetic they feel. Then we print everything out that we have written down and start to mixing everything together. We grab scissors, tape, pencils, and physically cut it up into different lines and paragraphs. We rearrange all of it, adding and subtracting material until we have something that follows a consistent line of logic. From there, the process is very similar to how an individual poem is created. We workshop it over and over again until we have something that everyone is happy with before shifting to practicing our performance. And when it comes to group poems, this process is even more detailed and difficult. In a group poem, it is important to vary who's speaking and how many people are speaking at the same time, so it can be difficult to find a good starting point. We often see how different people say certain lines to see who would give the best delivery of it in the final version. And though there is much, much, much more to say about just how much goes into creating a poem, I hope you're all starting to see just how different AWR is from other NPS programs. It involves a lot of individual feedback from our coaches and our teammates to create even a single poem. That type of one-on-one work is very rare in other activities, and it greatly improves the quality of a student's work. These experiences have been extremely helpful and have enhanced my education as a whole, and I see no harm in a group of students working together to better their creative writing and their ability to perform. With that being said, I hope you all decide to support AWR.
Thank you, Charlie.
Hello, my name is Emerson Widener. I live on Hillview Drive. I'm a sophomore at Norfolk Public School. I use All Rights Reserved, which we call AWR for short, to enhance my writing. I'm an award-winning writer, and I've written 2 books, and I want to write a 3rd. I'm currently in the process of publishing a manuscript for another one of my activities. In AWR, we explore various types of writing and learn new skills. AWR provides experiences and opportunities that the school does not otherwise provide. We are given the opportunity to share our stories and workshop. Personally, I've learned grammar tools that I didn't know previously, and others have given me great ideas for presenting and topics. In a classroom setting, we're restricted to reading other published authors' work. In speech, we have to use poetry that a published author wrote. Meanwhile, in AWR, we're tasked with writing our own poetry. AWR allows us to use skills that other clubs in the school denies us, at least not on the same level. Personally, I have so much fun, and it's helping me advance my career. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Emerson. Did anyone else want to speak? Thank you. You all had great inflection and excitement, and yes, I could hear your skills. Okay, we are to 11, information and discussion items. 11.1 is finance and facilities report. Dr. Thompson.
The total amount of claims to be approved on the consent agenda for the month of January 2024 by specific fund are listed below. General Fund, $434,525.21. Nutrition Services Fund, $31,035.54. Cooperative Fund, $2,901.46. Special Building Fund, $5,950. Student Fee Fund, $1,808.20. The amount of claims for the month of December 2023 in the Activities Fund was $112,541.45. All of these claims were reviewed earlier today by the Finance and Facilities Committee.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. Any questions?
I just have a question that when I'm looking at the activity fund purchases, I'm seeing the expenses. Is there a reason why we don't see the other side, the income? Not understanding it, or? It's just curious. I would like to see like what things are being reimbursed. Like if a club spends something, then do they reimburse, or do we have access to that? Or?
We could look at making a different report that could share that. What you're approving each month are the claims, so that's what is listed.
I would really like to have access to be able to see,
The
you know,
revenue
what
side?
things, yeah, the revenue side.
Okay.
Okay, 11.2 is teaching and learning report. Mrs. Luer.
Thank you, Madam President. As mentioned in last month's report, December serves as a pivotal mid-year point for checking on student progress. Principals and teachers will be looking to see if learning plans and instructional emphasis is in need of a shift to accomplish learning goals by the end of the year. These decisions are determined by evaluating a triangulation of data that includes classroom grades, progress monitoring, and interim state assessments. Are there any questions you would like me to pass on to Beth?
This mid-year point, is it for all subjects? It's all kids, all subjects, or is it what on student progress?
Okay, so I think we do NSCAS growth in December, so it's the 3rd through 8th grade, and then do we do a pre-ACT at the high school, Eric? I can't remember. That's just in the fall. And then K2 does MAPS for a mid-year progress point.
Those test scores back in?
Yeah, so we typically try and test first semester right in December so that we have the information when we come back in this time. For instance, January 3rd, we had our staff look at the data for how each building did within the NSCAS growth or MAPS, whatever grade level they were at.
You got the results back quickly then, that you could use
We
it,
did.
use the data right away. Okay, that's
We
good.
did. So that way we can make the adjustments needed.
Thank you, Mary, on behalf of Beth. Next, we have 11.3 student programs report. Mrs. Luer.
Our English language learner students will be able to begin taking the English Language Proficiency Assessment, ELPA, on February 5th, 2024 through March 15th, 2024. This assessment evaluates on students' proficiency in speaking, listening, reading, and writing the English language. The ELL teachers and I will meet January 17th in preparation for this assessment. Our district special education team will meet on February 24th. On January 31st, the leadership team will meet to discuss our targeted improvement plan moving forward. And February 8th and 9th, I will attend the NASA's conference in Lincoln. Are there any questions?
Mary, is ELL every grade level?
Yes, it is. K-12.
Thank you, Mary. 11.4, student services report. Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Madam President. With the start of second semester, we have begun thinking about kindergarten registration and roundup for next school year. Application process for kindergarten students to enroll in our Montessori program at Lincoln Elementary opened on January 1st. There will be a drawing on April 2nd to fill our 2 kindergarten sections in that building. We've also started taking registration information for kindergarten students at their neighborhood elementary schools. Parents must have a birth certificate, a copy of their immunization records to begin the enrollment process. Kindergarten Roundup will take place on April 17th. We want parents to get registration information submitted as soon as possible. Finally, preschool registration begins January 16th for Little Panthers Preschool. The link to the application will be on the NPS website under the Little Panthers tab. Parents without internet access can complete the pre-application by calling 402-371-8030. And this is a shared application between Norfolk Public Schools and Norfolk Head Start.
Thank you, Eric. 11.5, Human Resources. Mrs. Bauman.
Thank you, Madam President. MPS students and parents were offered an opportunity to complete a perceptual survey during a little before and after conferences in the fall. And this survey is created and managed by the Nebraska Department of Education, and the results are shared with the district. I have shared the district data with board members. All principals have their individual building data and have shared that data with their staff. They just did that upon their return January 3rd. The survey was given with a 5-point Likert scale, so you don't see that on here, but when you see those scores, a 5 is strongly agree, 4 agree, 3 is neutral, 2 disagree, and 1 strongly disagree. I am pleased with the results of the survey. The student survey had an overall average score of 3.89, and the parent survey was a 4.07. The perceptual survey data and recently shared Upbeat data was reviewed by staff in each building last week, and they will be digging into their own data to determine areas of strength and to begin addressing the areas that need improvement. I am pleased to let you know that one of the contracts on the agenda for approval tonight is for a Spanish teacher. I mention that because I connected with that teacher via our new recruiting tool, LinkedIn Recruiter. I am scheduled to attend job fairs in January and February to recruit at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, University of Nebraska-Kearney, University of Nebraska-Omaha, South Dakota State University, Wayne State College, and the South Dakota Teacher Fair. In addition, on Monday, January 15th, Norfolk Public Schools will host the ESU 8 Winter Workshop at the senior high. Approximately 19 school districts will gather to listen to keynote speaker Sam Glenn as he shares easy-to-implement strategies that help staff connect with their purpose each day and overcome any challenges that pop up. For the remainder of the day, teachers and administrators have the opportunity to attend 3 different sessions of their choice, choosing from over 75 sessions that cover a wide range of topics.
How many people took this survey?
Oh gosh. Well, every student, 3rd grade on up, took the survey. And, I don't know if I have the parent numbers with me. I can pull it up or I can email it to you. Some buildings had more participation than others, but I think our principals felt like they had enough response to have some valid scores on the survey. So the survey was sent home via email to parents. There was also a note sent home, and then computers were available during parent-teacher conferences for anyone that wanted to complete the survey on site.
So it was offered to all parents 3rd through 12th. It means that's what kids took at 3rd through 12th grade, so all parents got it 3rd through 12th grade also?
All parents K-12 got the survey, actually pre-K-12. Right, Mrs. Jantz? Yes, pre-K-12, all parents got it, but 3rd grade on up, those that were old enough to read the survey and complete it on their own. Yep.
Thank you.
Brenda, did you receive the survey? I did not.
I didn't get it either.
Neither did I.
I did. Well, Cindy, you wouldn't have received it. It was for parents.
You're not a parent.
You're not a parent of an MPS student. Yeah, it was sent out through Infinite Campus via whatever was in the Infinite Campus portal, whatever information each student has in there. Yeah.
So when did the survey go out, and what were percentages as far as returning?
That's the numbers I don't have in front of me. I'll have to pull those up. It went out the week before parent-teacher conferences and was open for, I believe, about 18 days. And then as people went into parent-teacher conferences at the main entrance, the computers were available there in each building as well.
And did the students take it right at school?
Yes.
So it was just an Infinite Campus, the parents weren't emailed it?
They were emailed through Infinite Campus.
Emailed,
Yep.
yes.
Yeah, I think we got multiple emails, and then for each kid you got a separate email.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Angie.
You're welcome.
11.6 is the superintendent's report. Dr. Thompson.
Thank you. I have chosen to focus my superintendent report on the administrative rule regarding athletics activities, clubs, and organizations because we have multiple items on the agenda tonight regarding activities, and we have lots of different types or levels of activities, and the process to move from one to the other can sometimes be confusing. So, as an introduction, our athletics, activities, clubs, and organizations offer opportunities for our students to learn the values of teamwork, individual and group responsibility, physical and mental strength and endurance, competition, diversity, and a sense of culture and community. According to the National Center for Educational Statistics, these extracurricular activities provide a channel for reinforcing the lessons learned in the classroom, offering students the opportunity to apply academic skills in a real-world context, and thus are considered part of a well-rounded education. Norfolk Public Schools has a long-standing tradition of commitment to our athletics, our activities, clubs, and organizations, and are proud to offer a wide range of opportunities for our students to participate. According to Board Policy 5302, these organizations are a vital part of the total education program as they accomplish the following 5 things. Number 1, they extend and reinforce the instructional program. Number 2, they give students practice in the democratic self-government. Number 3, they develop student morale and support for the school. Number 4, they honor outstanding student achievement. And finally, number 5, they provide wholesome social and recreational activities for our students. We have several different types of categories of athletics, activities, and clubs offered here at Norfolk Public Schools, starting with those that are associated with the Nebraska School Activities Association. According to Board Policy 5301, Norfolk Public Schools is a member of the NSAA, which is a voluntary organization of public and parochial schools in Nebraska, organized for the purpose of promoting and regulating the competition between schools in what is generally known as the extracurricular activities. All students participating in extracurricular activities shall follow the rules provided by the NSAA, as well as the rules of the Norfolk Public Schools. The finances of NSAA athletics and activities are provided and managed by the school district within our activities funds. These athletics and activities are board approved and are provided with paid coaches and/or sponsors. Those coaches and sponsors are placed on the extra duty pay scale within our negotiated agreement with the Nebraska City Education Association following their approval. Some examples of board-approved NSAA activities currently offered are football, volleyball, cross-country, tennis, golf, softball, bowling, unified bowling, basketball, wrestling, swimming, track, unified track, soccer, baseball, speech, debate, one-act, drama, journalism, and music, orchestra, band, and choir. The addition of NSAA activities may be considered by the school board if recommended by the superintendent and the activities director, as we recently did with bowling. Okay. Allied activities are not governed by the NSAA. They are still board approved and they have paid coaches and sponsors. The finances of NPS allied athletics and activities are provided and managed by the school district within the activities fund. Those coaches and sponsors are placed on our extra duty pay scale following the negotiated agreement with the NCEA. Allied activities, clubs, and organizations must demonstrate a direct tie to our curriculum and educational program or directly support an approved NSAA activities. Activities, clubs, and organizations that are purely social or recreation in nature are not to be approved as allied activities. Allied activities, clubs, and organizations must have a sponsor or coach assigned by the NHS Activities Director. They receive funding via the NHS Activities Fund for transportation and other expenses, and they may utilize district resources, including our facilities, technology, and logos. They are not subject to the rental policy, but they must reserve facilities via our Activities Director. Examples of approved allied activities, clubs, and organizations include cheerleading, dance, flags, DECA, FBLA, FFA, Skills USA, Student Council, Academic Challenge, Mock Trial, VICA, National Honor Society, HOSA, Educators Rising, and Poetry Club as a pilot. Affiliated activities, clubs, and organizations are simply approved by the superintendent or designee. The finances of the affiliated activities, clubs, and organizations are managed by the school district within the activities fund, but they do coaches or sponsors. Approved affiliated activities, clubs, and organizations may utilize our facilities, technology, and logo. They are not subject to the rental policy, but they must reserve facilities via the activities director. Approved affiliated clubs and activities include Junior Statesman, Nature Club, Panther Posse, GSA, Math Club, Mental Health Club. Affiliated activities, clubs, and organizations may apply to become approved allied activities via the protocol that is in the amendment. Non-affiliated student organizations may be allowed. They are non-school sponsored student organizations that are simply allowed to meet on school property in accordance with Board Policy 1100 and our Facilities Rental Handbook. Those non-school sponsored student activities fit within Category A. Therefore, no rental fee is charged. However, that organization must provide a certificate of insurance for all meetings and events that are held at our facility. Examples of non-affiliated organizations include Joy Club and FCA. Non-affiliated organizations apply to become approved affiliated activities via the protocol that is in the attachment. Are there any questions? I did include the protocols for you, but I'm not going to read through all for you.
I have a couple questions, and then I have some comments. Being as how it's already established, I don't have kids in the school anymore. What is VICA? I don't remember. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's Vocation and Industrial Arts Organization.
What is the HOSA? What does that stand for?
HOSA is the health organization with our Career Academy.
Well, I'm hoping this is the appropriate time, but I would like to make a statement. I will try to make this brief and to the point. And as we are about to have several votes that have to do with approving pilot programs and sponsors, I feel like it is the appropriate time to express my opinion. I have patiently listened, read, studied, and heard various opinions on the various things we will be voting for. And many times during board, I've listened to people's specials comments time, the emails that are sent to us, editorials, and also visits with constituents throughout the year. I truly appreciate the individuals who have contacted me, spoke, or took the time to express their opinion in any way. I haven't taken this lightly, and I have done my best to ask the necessary questions and do the research, take my own time, hard work, and sometimes even money needed to make a good decision, and I know all the board members do that as well. This is an elected but voluntary position, which is not paid. This is a wonderful service and a way to give back to all the teachers, administrators, and parents who have supported us throughout the years, and particularly me as a teacher. And this is why I decided to run for the school board. I have been on this voluntary school board now for just a year. I want to make it very clear that I ran for this position not for recognition. It kind of fits in good with the school recognition week that we're having next week. not for any kind of perks or rewards, not for publicity, name recognition, or status, and certainly not to be popular. I am not being coached, paid money by, or influenced by any political organization or group, and I will always make my own best decision, which may or may not agree with other individuals or even other school board members. But I will always be keeping the best interest of teachers, students, parents, and the community at the forefront, as what was evidenced when we watched the video today. So this is not about me, and that was emphasized in what we had watched. I was a teacher for over 50 years, and I built my reputation on hard work, many unpaid hours as a teacher, and I just want to insert thank you to all the teachers who put in numerous hours for no pay, only the reward of maybe at some time in the future, which has happened to me several times, having a student come and tell you that you did make a difference. I spent years of service in organizations and service clubs where I developed many leadership skills, built friendships, and did it all with no pay. In the next few minutes, we will be voting to approve several groups as pilots, approve several co-sponsorships to be paid, and I had decided that I was going to go along with this. These are all worthy groups, very worthy, as we heard from our students that got up and spoke, with worthy goals, and I support them. And I want them to know, and other students to know, that in fact I have been writing poetry since I was a teenager, and I have been a speech poetry judge for many years as well. I have used it as a form of self-expression for many years, so I totally identify with what you experience in the Writers Club. My vote against the Poetry Club last year had to do with setting a precedent. It was not about any content. In fact, I knew very little about the club when I voted against it, and thus my no vote. I felt like I had not had the time to research it, and I didn't know enough of the time to ask the appropriate questions, since it was only my second month on the board. But I have since done my research, and our superintendent has helped with that a lot, especially in her report today. If you look at the numbers of activities, clubs both allied and affiliated, they have more than doubled. Though they may all be very worthy, and I no doubt that they are worthy, very worthy. It is time to be aware of fiscal responsibility. We can't always have what we want, but we have to set our priorities according to our need. We as a board have some very costly things that will need to be addressed in the future, including buses, air conditioners, middle school or high school additions, curriculum decisions, and most importantly, making sure that we have enough qualified and experienced teachers that are justly and adequately paid in order to educate our students. And again, being a former teacher, that's very, very important. Our first priority is not activities, but rather the real platform I ran on, which was to bring back the basics of education to our district, to improve our scores and teach our students. As I continued to process all of this, I realized that we are sending a wrong message to our students. I believe it is time to teach some of the correct ideas. One, you don't have to go along with a group just because they say it is right. Stick to your values. And I think that's what the young writers are demonstrating when they came up today. Two, work hard for what you want. Don't expect to automatically make it on a team, earn the privilege to be on the teams, and travel with the teams. By working hard, trying out, or auditioning, you can be proud because you earned it. Lost my spot here. We can and we should take a look at being more selective on some of these things. Third, be a leader and don't expect the adults to do everything for you. And again, I compliment these kids that got up today. I think you were being great leaders and demonstrated that. Everything in life isn't fair, and everything in life isn't going to be fun. It is a privilege to serve without pay. You will grow in kindness, self-esteem, and it doesn't always have to be fun, but a lot of times it is. And we can say that as being school board members. You may have to sacrifice, you may have to go without, you may have to put in a lot of time and effort. You are not always going to be successful, and success can take time and patience, and something we all need to work on. And this is what I'm trying to do on the school board. A leader does what is right after much thought, study, hearing both sides. So I appreciate hearing both sides. And sometimes taking a stand that may be against popular opinion. This is what I was elected to do. I will continue to do what I think is right for students, the community, and hopefully represent and make the taxpayers proud. And thank you for your time and respectfully listening to my opinions. So if I don't agree on some of the votes today, I hope I've kind of explained my thought process. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Did anybody else want to comment or ask questions? Okay. We are to 12, committee reports. 12.1, facilities and finance. Brenda.
The Facilities and Finance Committee met right before this meeting at 12:30. We reviewed claims for the month of January and activity claims for December. Other topics discussed include the facilities, middle school addition and bleachers at the middle school, vehicle and equipment, mid-year spending, the transportation contract rate with Aero Stage Lines, strategic growth plan, and staff compensation. Minutes from the meeting will be attached to our February 12th board agenda, and our next Facilities and Finance meeting will be on February 12th, 2024. Is there any questions?
What's going on with the bleachers at the middle school?
We're getting new bleachers. Our other ones were not good and are not safe, so we're getting new bleachers.
Just the old wood ones, not the main aluminum section.
Thank you, Brenda. 12.2 is Activities Committee. Brenda.
Okay, the Activities Committee met on December 18th. It was a long meeting. Board members Terry Bauer and Brenda Carhart were present. Lindsay was absent. Mr. Irwin provided an update regarding senior high participation, uniforms, and performance, and Mrs. Lenton provided an update regarding junior high participation, uniforms, and performance. Other topics that we'll vote on later were the approval of the Poetry Club, all rights reserved, as an allied sport beginning next year, the addition of Circle of Friends as a pilot activity for the next year, the addition of sponsors for cheerleading and Pink Panthers. They have one, they want two, the continuation of our swimming and baseball co-ops, athletic trainers, and CPR and AEDs. CPR training and AEDs, do we have enough AEDs for our sports? Some items to note include, starting with the 24-25 school year, all coaches will be required to complete CPR training. And Faith Regional Health Services will no longer provide us with athletic trainers after this school year. If approved by the board, an RFP will be sent to other medical providers seeking a new partner. So we're going to try to find an athletic trainer from someone else, but we'll have to pay for them. And the junior high will need to order 25 additional girls wrestling uniforms, as they have 68 girls signed up to wrestle. The program's really grown, and so we need to make sure everybody has uniforms.
I would like to clarify that we are hoping to find a medical partner who may not charge us, or that may just charge us a small amount for that service.
Because
We can
previously,
stress that as much as possible.
yeah, because previously with Faith Regional, at first we got both of them free, and then last year we got one free and we had to pay for one, and then this year they said no more free, no more athletic trainers. We're not going to provide any of them. You need to go out and find your own. So we're hoping to find some other athletic trainers or other medical communities that want to partner with us and maybe give us a break and work with us on athletic trainers.
Do we know where our current trainer's going, so then we can just go wherever they're going and go get them?
Well, they are employees of Faith Regional.
Yeah, but Faith Regional's not having trainers anymore.
Well, they're not having trainers that work with us. They want to just keep their trainers for themselves and work with their medical patients.
Oh, I thought they were
Did
getting
I
rid of the
explain that?
whole athletic trainers. Okay.
Yeah.
So even if we were willing to pay for both of them, they still wouldn't provide them to us.
My understanding is they don't want to do that anymore, that they're done with the athletic trainer business.
Got it,
Yes.
thank you.
I think they need them for their own workforce. There's not an abundance of them, and they need them to help with their patients alone and not work with us as much, or at all.
Is the new CPR requirement, is that a state requirement that all coaches be CPR trained?
That is a new NSAA requirement.
Thank you.
The school will pay for that, for the training, correct?
Correct.
So my question is, with these 25 additional girls wrestling uniforms, are those paid for by the school completely, and they're not reimbursed by anybody? And
Yes.
there's no audition process, or audition process, you can tell I'm a music teacher. There's no, tryout process or anything like that where
No,
at the
that's a
junior high
lot.
level.
not at
That's
the
a
junior
lot.
high, because at the junior high level, we want to give everybody the opportunity to try new sports, so we don't cut anybody. We give everybody the opportunity to try it and see.
High school level, then they do cuts there.
Terry, do you know?
Again, I'm not up to date on this stuff, I'm sorry.
They do. I'm not the coach, and I don't know who makes the cut or why they make the cut. I thought I saw our AD sitting in the audience.
And I just want to
Okay.
stress too, at the junior high level, our uniforms are much simpler and more economical than they are at the upper levels, so.
I'm not aware of this kind of stuff.
I think that's amazing.
Thank you, Mr. Irwin.
I think that's amazing that our girls wrestling program has grown that much. And if you look back, like I remember when my kiddos were in track, I mean, the junior high track uniforms were not like top of the line, and some of them were very old, but just to have a kiddo get to wear that uniform with the rest, just, you know, it was a wonderful time. So the problem is that it's such a new program that we've got to get some things going. Got it. Okay, consent agenda items. 13.1 is minutes of the previous meetings, and the meeting of December 11th is attached for your review. Very exciting. Angie's been working very hard because we do have some contract approvals. Dr. Thompson?
I have 3 contracts for your consideration this evening. They are all for next school year. Lexi Bacon, special education teacher at Norfolk Senior High School. Javier Martinez, Spanish teacher at Norfolk Senior High School. And Gage Ott, industrial technology teacher at Norfolk Junior High School.
Great job.
Thank you. Some of those are hard to fill positions, so
Yes.
we're really happy to have those early.
So Lexi Baking left for a year and then came back?
Correct.
Okay. Is that Ott related to the Ott at the high school?
Yes, ma'am.
Heather?
Then sadly, 13.2, we have some resignations. Dr. Thompson?
Thank you. Yes, we have 3 resignation. Julie Shoemaker, kindergarten teacher at Lincoln Montessori, is retiring at the end of the school year, as is Deb Brunswick, English teacher at Norfolk Senior High School. And then Melissa Anderson, 8th grade science teacher at Norfolk Junior High, is resigning.
We want to thank all of these teachers for their service. I know Julie and Deb have quite a few years together. I don't know much about Melissa, but thank you all for your service. 13.3 is the claims. Dr. Thompson?
Attached are the claims for the month of January 2024. These claims were reviewed earlier by our Finance and Facilities Committee. And we do have 2 conflict statements this month that must be read before voting.
Is there a motion?
Oh, motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second the motion.
Have a motion by Brenda and a second by Beth. Would you like to read your conflict?
Out of an abundance of caution, I hereby declare a potential conflict of interest and am abstaining from voting on claim number 657 and 658 for the month of January in the consent agenda for this meeting. I have signed and filed this written disclosure with the Secretary of the Board. It is my intent to vote on all other remaining items listed on the consent agenda. My vote on the remainder of the consent items should not be taken as a vote one way or the other on the items which I have identified or any of the matters set forth therein or related thereto.
Out of an abundance of caution, I hereby declare a potential conflict of interest and am abstaining from voting on claim number 172, 659, and 660 for the month of January in the consent agenda for the meeting. It's for mileage expense to go to, I'm being reimbursed for mileage expense to go to the Nebraska School Board Convention. I have signed and filed with this written disclosure with the Secretary of the Board. It is my intent to vote on all other remaining items listed on the consent agenda. My vote on the remainder of the consent items should not be taken as a vote one way or the other on the item which I have identified or any other matters set forth therein or related thereto.
Please vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you, Callan. 14, action items. 14.1, discuss, consider, and take action to approve the addition of a half-time English language learner teacher for Washington Elementary. Dr. Thompson.
Thank you. As discussed in my report earlier, we have experienced an increase in the number of English language learner students across the district. In the last 5 years, our number of ELL students increased from 203 to 278, and our number of newcomers has more than tripled. Newcomers are students that are brand new to our country and speak little to no English. They require a much higher level of service than ELL students who have been in our country for a few years. The board granted us permission to hire 2 additional ELL teachers last year to assist with our increase in non-English speaking Ukrainian students. However, our needs in the ELL area continue to grow. We hired a temporary half-time substitute ELL teacher to help with the large ELL caseload at Washington Elementary second quarter. It is recommended that we place this individual on a regular half-time teacher contract for the remainder of the school year.
I'll make a motion to approve the addition of this half-time English language learner teacher for Washington Elementary for the remainder of the 2023-24 school year.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Brenda and a second by Lindsay. Is there any discussion?
I have a question. Will we need this person again next year? Will we work her into the salary schedule?
We will have a need for her, yes, so that will be an ongoing cost. However, it may not be this specific individual. Instead of having a half-time and then 1.5 half-time, it would probably be two full-time people.
You will advertise for this job for the fall?
Yes. We would advertise in the fall if it is approved for the addition tonight.
Is this one willing to go full-time?
We haven't gotten a confirmation on that yet. Do you mean for next year? Yeah. For next year? Yeah, I don't know that.
Okay, please vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you, Callan. 14.2 is discuss, consider, and take action to approve the addition of 1.5 ELL teachers for the 24-25 school year. Dr. Thompson.
Do you want me to read the same rationale for the third time?
No.
Okay, then I would just take any questions you might have.
Will this be in addition to the one we just talked about that we just approved?
So there's a half that we need for the rest of this year, and then a total of 2 next year. That could be a half, a 1.5, or it could be 2 fulls, but it will be the addition of 2 people in the end, in some combination.
Luck getting them, yes.
Please vote. Sorry, gosh darn it.
I'll make a motion to approve the addition of 1.5 ELL teachers for the 24-25 school year.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion by Brenda and a second by Beth. We did the discussion early. Is there any other discussion? Please vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you, Callan. 14.3, discuss, consider, and take action to reaffirm the current COVID-19 safe return to in-person learning plan. Dr. Thompson.
Thank you. The Norfolk Public Schools COVID-19 Safe Return to In-Person Learning Committee developed our original COVID-19 safety protocols during the summer of 2020. Those plans allowed us to safely return to in-person learning. We have revised those plans multiple times based upon COVID-19 transmission rates within our community and changing guidelines from the Center of Disease Control and the Elkhorn-Logan Valley Public Health Department. We are satisfied with our current plan, which allows us to maintain a normal school routine. However, we are required by federal guidelines to review this plan every 6 months until September of 2024. Our committee reviewed our current plan and recommends that the Board of Education reaffirm the plan as is. The committee did not provide any recommendations for changes at this point.
I make a motion to reaffirm the current COVID-19 safe return to in-person learning plan.
Second that motion.
We have a motion by Beth and a second by Cindy. Is there any discussion? Please vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you, Callan. 14 my thing skipped, sorry. 14.4, discuss, consider, and take action to approve the 24-25 preschool calendar. Dr. Thompson.
Thank you. The Little Panthers preschool calendar was attached for your review. It largely matches our K-12 school calendar, but has the addition of some family service days where they have to do home visits.
I make a motion to approve the 2024-2025 preschool calendar.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion by Beth and a second by Terry. Is there any discussion? Please vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you, Callan. 14.5, discuss, consider, and take action to grant permission to seek RFPs for 2 athletic trainers for the 2024-25 school year. Dr. Thompson.
Thank you. Faith Regional Health Services has provided us with athletic trainers since 2009, but has decided to discontinue the service at the end of the 23-24 school year. We are hoping that another local medical organization will be interested in providing us with this service at little to no cost. The RFP process is the best way to give all medical organizations a fair opportunity.
I'll make a motion to grant permission to seek our RFPs for 2 athletic trainers for the 2024-2025 school year.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Terry and a second by Lindsay. Is there any discussion?
In the past, we've paid for one and got one free. So if we go forward and we have to pay more, because we have to pay for 2, or we have to pay just more in general, then how will that be brought before the board to approve that? Or do we just, by granting this tonight, do we agree to pay whatever it takes? How does that work?
No, I think if the RFP comes in where it's very similar or better than our last arrangement, then we could go ahead. But if it would be us paying for more, or if we're not able to get an RFP and we have to hire our own, I mean, those are all things that would come back to the board for consideration.
It only would not come back to the board if it was a similar dollar amount as what we currently have.
Correct.
Or 2, we're gonna stay with 2, we had 2, we're gonna stay with 2.
Yeah, I don't know how we could go with less. I mean, Mr. Irwin could talk about that more, but they already can't attend all of our events. They have to pick and choose based on the most likelihood of injury or need.
Is it a requirement to have athletic trainers? I realize it's in our student athletes' best interest, but I'm just curious.
It is not a legal requirement or NSA requirement, but most larger schools have them. Even the smaller schools around us have been utilizing Faith Regional Services for athletic trainers for a lot of their activities.
Or, is Norfolk Catholic and Norfolk Lutheran, are they in the same boat? They're going to be looking for new athletic trainers as well, most likely if they've been using Faith Regional ones?
I assume that they will, yes.
And is it written somewhere that they need the athletic trainer certification, or can we have someone that's doesn't have that certification on the field with them?
I don't think there are written requirements. I mean, we could have a medical doctor be in there. I mean, it's just looking for someone with that medical expertise who can analyze the student's situation and, you know, determine if they need to get medical treatment or they need to go directly to the ER or whatever the situation may be.
Good luck.
Please vote. Motion carried 6-0. Thank you, Callan. 14.6, discuss, consider, and take action to approve Circle of Friends as a pilot allied activity for 2024-25. Dr. Thompson.
Thank you. Circle of Friends is currently an affiliated club at senior high school. It has applied to become an allied club. If approved, this club would be piloted as an allied club for 2024-2025. The goal of Circle of Friends is to improve the social skills of students with disabilities, which are called target students, and to get them more involved in the community. Sample activities include monthly officer meetings, monthly mentor meetings, monthly events such as dodgeball, board games, cookie decorating, pumpkin painting, bowling party, etc., attendance at all school dances, and hosting an adult and student volleyball tournament to raise money for the club. Participation numbers have increased significantly. Mentors have increased from 7 to 31, and target students have increased from 5 to 15. Circle of Friends currently has 2 sponsors that volunteer between 50 to 60 hours each. They are requesting the addition of 1 paid position that would be at the rate of $1,972.85, or step 9 on the extra duty schedule. And that would be shared or split between the 2 sponsors. So it's really just the addition of 1 position.
I'm assuming that's 50 to 60 hours over the school year?
Yes, exactly.
And then how do you determine what step they are on the extra duty schedule? Because I thought, I know we had talked about that during negotiations for the teacher salary, so would they be okay with wherever that person is put? How does that work?
So I think a year ago, Mr. Irwin did a large-scale study and determined how many hours each coach across the district was putting in for each position, and we really realigned that extra duty schedule. So he is estimating that this would be at level 9 for the pilot year. We would then negotiate that during negotiations the following year before it would become potentially an actual allied activity.
Thank you.
How many years has this been in existence with the volunteer coaches?
I can't remember. Yes, Mary, can you refresh my memory? You had that.
Yeah, 2014, 15, a student and teachers came together to develop that and wrote a grant for it, and it was grant funded for the students to participate in and have the sponsors of that. The grant slowly went away. The participation and the involvement went away, and then we have 2 teachers at the high school that really see the benefit of having Circle of Friends and having our students with special needs participate in the activities that are already in our school that may not be available if we didn't have the students and sponsors to participate with them or be with them.
How many activities do we have available for our special needs kids?
Well, all activities are available for kids, but the amount of support or inclusion that may be there may not be as high with the inclusion part. Like if a student chose to go out for volleyball, they can go out for volleyball. But if they needed extra supports, legally, we would have to look at that support. But this is more about social and not the activities, like the dances. We used to have years ago a dance just for our special need kids because a teacher saw the need for that. I personally would rather have them at the school dances with all of their peers And this is what this group does. They take the kids to basketball games. They do lots of things to keep the kids very included. And our school student population is fantastic at this. So it's just one of those things that in 14-15 there was a student and some teachers that really saw a strong need for that.
It says that they raise funds for their activities, so there's no other expense other than just this sponsor.
I make a motion to approve Circle of Friends as a pilot allied activity.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Beth and a second by Lindsay. Is there further discussion?
I think I've already expressed my feelings.
Please vote. Motion carried 5-1. Thank you, Callan. 14.7, discuss, consider, and take action to approve Poetry Club as an NHS allied activity for 24-25. Dr. Thompson.
Thank you. Poetry Club, All Rights Reserved, or AWR, was approved as a pilot allied activity last year. It started as an affiliated club at Norfolk High School in 2019 with approximately 7 participants. It is a collaboration with the Nebraska Writers Collective, a nonprofit organization that hosts a spoken word poetry festival or competition annually with the goal to empower youth through creative writing and performance poetry. It is now time for the school board to evaluate whether Poetry Club should be approved as an official or formal allied activity. If approved, the finances of the club will be managed by the school district within the activities fund, and the sponsor will be paid according to the extra duty salary schedule. If not approved, the Poetry Club can return to an affiliated status or become a non-affiliated activity. Some information provided from AWR's application is below. So I don't know if I need to read through all of that. There is a $400 entry fee for the school to compete at the state tournament. The personnel is just one coach placed on the extra duty schedule at step 10, $1,578.28. So the entire activity costs about $2,000 for the entire year.
I make a motion to approve Poetry Club as an Norfolk High School allied activity beginning in the 2024-2025 school year.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion by Beth and a second by Terry. Is there any discussion?
Dr. Thompson, I know you went over this earlier, but can you remind me, just for me, the allied activity, just what the difference is?
The main difference between the affiliated and the allied is basically that when it becomes an allied sport, we pay for a coach or a sponsor, and that it's board approved.
Thank you.
Like all of you, I'm sure, we received about 10 emails affirming that they believed that this was very strong for Norfolk Public Schools. I received 0 asking us not to do it. But one of them that was really strong, one of the emails, it was from a 2002 graduate. And she said, "We should celebrate the fact that NHS is allowing space for students to make sense of their world through writing and performing poetry. One of my students wrote, she's also an introductory creative writing class at a university, I need to write like I need to breathe. And I'm sure that NHS students feel the same about their poetry." I appreciate all that Cindy has said, and I know that she has taken her stance, but I believe we need a lot of different clubs and organizations for all of our kids, and I think this one, I mean, they placed second at state, which is amazing. I think it's just done some great things, and I love the passion of our students that got up and spoke.
Again, I would agree with you on the merit, and I'm impressed with the kids and the students, and it's not based on that, so please don't take it that way. It's just based on some precedent and financial financial decisions, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, Cindy, I wasn't saying that. I was just saying that was your opinion. The other thing I think is that our teachers give so much every day that to expect them to volunteer additional hours, I think is unrealistic. I think they're all giving above and beyond, and they need to be compensated.
You have to be a teacher to be a volunteer. If it's affiliated.
Well, I think probably my view is I very much support it. I enjoyed the emails, the speakers, everybody that came in. I think probably where there's a little bit of struggle with the tax dollars coming from it is that somebody reached out many, many years ago and decided this was so very important to them that they were willing to volunteer and give their time. So I am not opposed to paying people, but it shouldn't be go against anybody if tax dollars don't, people don't want to pay with their tax dollars, because it originally started with somebody who had deep, deep, deep passion for it and was willing to give their time freely.
Well, and here's the thing to think, do I have any students in here still? Yes. How many hours, okay, thank you. How many hours does the coach put in? A week, a month? Can you just round it?
Thank you. Mike and Jen both collectively do that, though Mike has meetings sometimes. Later in the season, though, we bump that up quite a bit to like Wednesdays and Fridays more if we need, because since a lot of us are performing arts students, a lot of us have like one acts and stuff, but Mike is very committed to the team. He is the most passionate person I have ever met, because like before being an AWR, I thought I hated poetry, and then I came in and just the amount of commitment he has to the team. I'm not sure the exact hours, so I can't really say that, because I don't track that throughout the season.
I'm glad you said that, because my point behind that too is I'm over here doing the math and everything, and I was a big poetry person. I still do it. I love it. And it's $133 approximately for you to do that whole year. So we're paying a guy $133 for that.
Yeah, and there's not a lot
per
of
student, because there's 15 kids, and I just round everything up to 2,000. So if we pay him plus $400 to go to competition, it's 130, 150. Let's just round up high.
Yeah,
you're worth 150 bucks to me.
Thank you.
To me, to me. I can't speak for everybody else, but to me, you are, and keep doing you. So thank you.
And Lindsay, I can't disagree with that logic. However, it does set a precedent, and this just keeps growing and growing and growing. And I think we need to be aware that if we keep saying yes, 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 how far is this going to expand?
I just want to address another point that hasn't been talked about tonight. You mentioned, Cindy, that you were interested in getting back to the basics and raising test scores. Well, one thing that Poetry Club does and learning about poetry is it helps those kids with that academic ability. It helps them with their test scores. It's proven that poetry analysis, learning that, raises scores on the ACT and helps them with their general education. So there's more benefits than just what you see initially. And
I'm totally
so I
aware
think
of
that's
that. Like I said, I'm
important to
a
point
huge
out.
supporter. I write poetry. It's simply about volunteerism. And I'm a big volunteer. I would like to encourage others to volunteer. And I think that's a lesson that we can be showing and teaching our students as well. It sounds like your coach is extremely passionate about it, and I would hope that no matter what would happen, that he would continue on a volunteer basis, as I certainly would do if I were him. So that's my comment about it.
I think moving forward, let's be a little more mindful of what we take in as a pilot program.
Okay, please vote.
Motion carried, 5-1.
Thank you, Callan. Okay, let's see. My computer's being silly on me. We are to 14.9, no, 14.8. Discuss, consider, and take action to approve the addition of a co-sponsor for cheerleading for 2024-25. Dr. Thompson.
Thank you. Mr. Irwin has analyzed the amount of time spent by our cheer coach coaching our cheerleaders, and has decided that we really need to have another coach to assist with that. He did a survey of Class A schools, and that indicated that the majority of Class A schools have 2 or even 3 cheer sponsors, and we only have 1. The results are listed in your packet there.
I had a question. Why does the cost addition on this $3,946, where before we were at like $2,000 on other things?
Because the cheerleading coach is, I think, at step 5. But so there are different levels of coaches based on the amount of time that they put in. So this is at level 5, whereas the others were.
5 pays more than 9?
Yes.
Ooh,
1 is the highest paid.
Okay, there was my confusion. I'm like, what?
Okay, so here's my question, though. Are both of them going to get paid at level 5? Because then it would be changed from a level 5, because if one person is doing a class 5, but they want help, then their hours are going to get cut back, so it'd be 2 at level 9, or class 9. They have half the hours.
Or would it be one coach, one head coach, and one assistant? Because looking at all the other activities that have 20 or less participants, nobody has 2 head coaches. They all have 1 head coach and 1 assistant.
Lots of good questions. I think I'll let Mr. Irwin come up and address some of them. We cannot add a new position to the extra duty schedule, so we can't add an assistant coach without going through the NCEA negotiated process. We can add the same type, so we could add a co-sponsor at this point, but we cannot add an assistant.
Well, the other assistants, right?
Yes, but it's on the extra duty schedule, and cheerleading does not have one listed on the schedule.
Take to change that. I just think this is a lot for 2 coaches.
We would need to ask the NCEA to come back to the negotiations table.
But they hadn't negotiated this because we didn't have 2, we only had 1.
Yeah, they just, they negotiate the position, where it's at on the schedule, and then we determine how many people we hire for that position. So like so like we have a head basketball coach and multiple assistants. We determine how many they are. They just determine what each one of those is paid.
So the first one's going to get paid the same amount, but their hours going to be cut in half.
No, that would plan to have equal responsibilities, duties, and hours as co-sponsors.
Can I have an application?
So it's really just like a coaching position right now, with the number of girls and the different things that they do, between practices, competitions, and their season goes, when we pay a coach, it's for the fall season or it's for the winter season. Theirs is pretty much the whole year. So they do a fall, they do a winter, and then in the spring they're doing tryouts and all of those things, plus they take them to camps and everything, just like the rest of them do. So, a coach might get $3,000, but it's for the fall season, where here cheerleaders are getting the $3,000 for the whole year. So what it is, it's not really to say, well, you only have to be here half the time and I'll do the other half. It's just gotten to be to where there's been so many other expectations of them, with going to different dance competitions, which they're both going to the state competition this weekend, that sometimes for safety, for supervision, even though it has kind of been that way forever, I think things are getting now to where they're doing more things, like the cheerleaders are doing lifts and things like that, which they didn't do in the past. And so it basically is to allow them to not really split time, but split the duties. So they'll both be there at practices. They'll do the same things. I know, like our cheerleaders, sometimes they might all want to travel to an away football game. Well, if you only have one sponsor, you have to take a bus to do that, which is $1,500. But if you have two, you can take two vans and do it for a few $100s. And so I know when I asked all the other people how many that they have gotten, and actually when you consider all the pay on there, it's still less than what those schools are doing. So we're not asking to have another person to split the cost and the duties. We just think there's gotten to be so many duties with the two of them, and Pink Panthers will be up here shortly too, that I think it's important to be able to have two people there to be able to sponsor and share the duties and make sure that everything is done correctly or as needed. And I think if you look at all the other schools that are up there, they don't split theirs like this either. They get paid that amount, and we would probably still be behind most of them on this, but it would be closer. So if you look at a Millard North or a LPS, yeah, they might have an assistant and a head coach, but in order to get that done right now, we would have to go back to negotiations to do that. Anybody have any other questions?
I do have
for
a
me?
question.
Yes.
So I think the concern I have is that these numbers are flexible and they're changing, and sometimes the cheerleaders drop down in numbers, and the Pink Panthers used to be around 20, 24, up to 34 one year, and now they're down to 17, and their ideal number I've heard is 15. 15 people for two people?
I don't know if that's, I know for sure the cheerleaders I've spoke to, the cheerleader sponsor, I think she would like to grow the cheer squad into more, but obviously with only one, that's not possible. And I'm kind of guessing that that's maybe the case with the Pink Panthers also, is that they've just felt that it's a lot more difficult to do it with one person. And I know you did it for a few years in there too. So
15.
you could probably, yeah, a few. So,
And I agree. I know they've got to competitions and all that, but they've really turned into a cut sport, because I know that there's been a lot of hardships.
right. And that would be something too that would have to be discussed, that they would have to increase their numbers and do more if they're gonna have another person as well.
And I would be,
Yeah.
I think the other thing that needs to be brought up is we often have two two activities going on, like we have volleyball, we have whatever. And if you just have one, only one bus can go, right? Or one
Correct.
van? Right.
Yeah, and there's been times we've had a volleyball game home or at home at the same time that we have a football game. Doesn't happen very often. We try to avoid that, but it does
do
occasionally
cheerleaders do
happen.
volleyball? And does the
Yes.
dance team do volleyball?
Yeah. Dance does not. Cheer does.
So I had
don't
Eric
do
pull
wrestling.
up
He
the
didn't want 'em to
extra
do
duty
wrestling.
schedule. This was the one that was approved for next year. So. Yeah, so number 5 is where cheerleading is. Okay, so typically if we went with an assistant, they would be 2 steps below, so they'd be at 7. And you can see right now we have nothing for extra duty 7, so we would have to go to the negotiated agreement team to create that part of the extra duty schedule. But we can estimate that starting for step 5 is 0.09, 9% of the salary of a beginning teacher. And go back down, Eric, sorry. 8 is 7, so it'd be between 9 and 7, which would be 8. So 8% of the salary is $3,090. So it would be a difference of $900 going from a co-sponsor to an assistant.
This isn't anything we can do, you said.
You could tell me to ask the NCEA team to come back to the negotiated table, and we could negotiate it, if that is what the board wants to do.
I have other questions about the extra duty category. Back, you know, you were saying that cheerleading has become kind of a year-round
Yes.
activity.
Correct.
And they're still at category 5, whereas, and I'm just picking here, the golf is just a single season.
Right.
You know, yet they're at level 3.
It's all calculated on how many hours and what they would get per hour. So even though cheer and Pink Panther might be basically year round, a lot of times we don't put into that what they do during their off season, because every coach does that, or most of them do. So what we do is we figure how many hours that they are actually practicing during the season, how many hours they're like traveling to and from their competitions and things like that. And we figure out how many hours total they put in for their season, and then we're able to come up with roughly $1 amount per hour. So the cheer and the Pink Panthers are lower than that, because even though they do it, they might only practice an hour a day, or maybe an hour 3 days a week for the course of the, from August to February or whatever. So we do it based, all these were done. We asked each of the coaches, to give us an idea or approximation of how many hours that they felt they put in for their season just during the season. And then there were some other things that were included, but most of it was based on, how many hours they put in as to where they're going to be on that.
So this list is fairly reflective of the current amounts that everybody is putting.
Correct.
Thank you.
And it's reflective of more dollars per hour rather than it is like, your football coach is up there more in basketball because in wrestling, because they put in more hours, so therefore they need more money. But the dollar per hour pretty much comes out similar to most of them.
And does that also reflect the numbers that are involved?
Yes, we also did do a little bit of work with that. We didn't break it down, so to speak, into you get so much per athlete, but we did ask them, and that is kind of factored in there a little bit, in that, somebody that's responsible for 100 kids might get just a little bit more than somebody that only has 12 kids. So there was a little bit of that factored in there as well, yes.
Do we ever look at allied clubs and look at their numbers and go backwards and say you've had 2 sponsors, but now based on numbers, you only need 1?
Well, I've only done this for a couple years, but we've not done that since I've been the AD.
When you sent all of us the clubs and the numbers
Right.
and how many coaches they had, I saw some that had lower numbers, but yeah,
Correct.
had 2 sponsors, and I'm like, well, then how come they get 2 sponsors and only have 5 kids versus other clubs that are larger numbers but only have 1? So I wondered if it's decreased, do we reduce it and save
and I don't
expense?
know which ones would have had 2. I mean, we have some that split, but I don't know as if we have any that are that low that would really have 2. They might, like I know, for instance, right now our Pink Panthers are splitting. They both agreed to share 1 salary right now, so even though there's 2 of them doing it, they're only getting paid the 1 salary, and they're splitting it at half. And we can do that. We can't add more without your approval, but they can say, hey, we have 2 sponsors. But that would be something to consider, that if they're not going to continue to grow their programs, then that would be something to look at.
Is there somebody already lined up to take that second cheerleader coach position, or would you have to go
Yes.
looking for somebody?
We've actually got somebody that's volunteering now. We went through a cheer coach change during the course of the school year, and so we were lucky enough to have Miss Hoffman come back and do it, and then we do have somebody else that I'm paying her an hourly rate to kind of help, because Miss Hoffman is going to be getting married, and she had a bunch of other things, and she said, I can't do all this myself, and she's, I think, kind of agreed that she might come back and help next year if we approve this, but she said it's too much time. I'm not going to do it if I have to do it alone. So
What did you mean by you say you're paying her an hourly rate, the second one?
the activities pay, just like we would somebody to come work tickets and things like that.
You're paying her already.
Out of the activities account, yes. All the coaches' salaries, I'm not sure where they come out of. General fund, I believe the central office pays for their salaries. I don't do that. So I pay for all the expenses. They pay for the coaches' salaries and the transportation. and then we pretty much cover most of the rest. So like all the activity workers that help take tickets or work basketball games, things like that, I pay for that, and that's what we're paying the other person with right now because we felt it was important to give Alyssa that help since she was getting thrown into it right in the middle of the year.
So since this isn't going to start until next school year, correct?
Correct.
Could we wait and see if we could get, I just think that's a lot of money to suddenly double up, but I don't know what the rest of you think, if this is something you're okay with.
I feel like it's the only one, sorry. I feel like it's the only one that would have two coaches rather than one head and one assistant. So I think I'd like to visit the idea of doing one head and one assistant.
We can do that. I did want to answer one question you had earlier. We do have 3 other activities that basically have 18 or less participants and 2 coaches or sponsors. Debate is an NSAA activity that has 10 participants currently and 2 coaches or sponsors. Boys golf is an NSAA activity with 13 participants and 2 coaches. And girls golf is an NSAA activity with 12 participants and 2 coaches.
And they don't have a head coach and a second coach?
Yes.
Yeah, they have a head and a second.
We just
So
actually
theirs is
approved
head.
that
Right, I was
last year.
just talking the numbers,
Right.
but it is head and assistant on all 3 of those?
Correct, yep. There's a head and an assistant for all 3.
I think we need to go back and kind of look at it just a little bit. I think they need help. I think that, but this is a little, yeah.
So
I agree with
if
that.
that's what the board would want to do, there would just need to be a motion to postpone action on this item until a future meeting.
I make a motion to postpone action on this item until a future meeting.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Beth and a second by Lindsay. Further discussion.
I guess I would like to know what all information would you like us to collect in the meantime?
I'm not opposed to, I think they need a second person, but I think it should be a head and an assistant, or at least we should consider that rather than just 2 head coaches, because no other activity on my list has 2 head coaches, so.
So would you like me to approach the NCEA about reopening negotiations specifically to this topic only?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Aren't we doing them both?
No, this
Shoot, sorry, we can only do one at a time.
to postpone Pink Panthers also.
Okay, so we have a motion by Beth and a second by Lindsay. Please vote. Motion carried, 5-1. Thank you, Callan. 14.9, discuss, consider, and take action to approve the addition of a co-sponsor for Pink Panthers.
Much of the rationale for this item is similar to that of the last item. Mr. Irwin had looked at the number of hours being put in, and it would be that, so he would recommend another coach or an assistant. And he surveyed the Class A schools and found that a majority of them had 2 or 3 dance sponsors.
I make a motion to postpone this discussion until a future meeting for the same rationale as the last item.
Second the motion.
We have a motion by Beth and a second by Brenda. Further discussion? Please vote. Motion carried, 5-1. Thank you, Callan. 14.10, guys hanging in there? Discuss, consider, and take action to approve the continuation of our boys baseball co-op with Lutheran High Northeast and Norfolk Catholic for 24-25. Dr. Thompson.
Thank you. Our baseball program has a long and successful tradition of co-oping with Norfolk Catholic and Lutheran High Northeast schools for boys baseball. It is recommended that we continue this co-op as it is for the 2024-2025 school year.
Make a motion to approve the continuation of our boys co-op with Lutheran High Northeast and Norfolk Catholic.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion by Brenda and a second by Terry. Is there a discussion?
Just for clarification, I think I asked this last time, but that is, we finance that, right? Is that correct?
That is correct. The only time that Norfolk Catholic or Lutheran High Northeast would pay would be as if they had a student going to their school that was not a resident of Norfolk. Sometimes they might live in another town, and then we charge them $250. But I would like to point out that there really isn't a lot of extra expense in order to have their students participate with us. We already need the coaches, we already need the facilities, we already have uniforms, so it's not really an added expense.
And these are taxpayers as well in our community.
I just wanted to clarify, thanks.
Please vote.
Motion carried, 5-1.
Thank you, Callan. Did I? No, please retract that vote. I don't even see where it's showing us who's voting what. No, I did not mean to vote. I apologize. Thank you for catching that. No, thank you for catching that. Oh, there, I see it up there. Oh, it says yes. Or did she change that? Okay, thank you. These are readers, so I can't see past this. Oh, goodness. Future meetings. Wow. The second monthly meeting of the Board of Education in January is tentatively scheduled for Thursday, January 25th, 2024 at noon. The next regular meeting of the Board of Education will be held on Monday, February 12th, 2024. The regular business meeting will begin at 5:30 p.m. All components of these meetings will be held at the Norfolk Public Schools Central Administration offices and will be open to the public unless an executive session is needed in order to protect the interest of the district or the reputation of an individual. Speaking of, we do need to go into executive session to discuss safety and security reports and protocols and safety and salary negotiations needed to protect the interest of the district. We need a motion.
I make a motion to go into executive session to discuss safety and security reports and protocols and salary negotiations, both needed to protect the interest of the district.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion by Beth and a second by Terry. Is there any discussion? Please vote.
Motion carried, 6-0. I do not anticipate that any action will be taken tonight. There may be an agenda item on a future meeting.